and some strange person popping in. I think you're wrong. I'm really excited to talk to everyone, to all of those people who've never joined Script Circle before. This is going to be your little taste. You're going to want to come back every time this happens after this. So this is kind of fun for me because I'm talking to people with lots of Moliere experience and perhaps a few that have only just briefly dipped their toes in the waters of Moliere. And so what I'm excited to share with you is a fun little, click my buttons the right way, a brief little PowerPoint that I put together just to let us see some visuals as we are preparing ourselves for this new translation of The Miser that's been prepared for us by Nick Henke. So first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about the guy that is responsible for the original piece, and that is our friend Moliere. You have in front of you a couple of books that were my inspiration for diving into this project. The book on the left, Bermel's Moliere's Theatrical Bounty book, is dedicated to script and script analysis, director's analyses, diving into the texts themselves. The image you see on the right, Moliere's On Stage, What's So Funny, is a book that's near and dear to my heart. It was instrumental to my master's thesis, and it's Robert Goldsby's investigation of Moliere then and now, talking about plays not only as they happened originally, but also some contemporary productions too. A lot of great information specifically about The Miser comes from Goldsby's book. This big one in the center is probably the most important book out there about the life of Moliere, because it talks about theater, it talks about his personal life, it talks about the interweavings that Moliere and his company had with Louis XIV. So there's so much to be pulled out about the life of Moliere and how much that life is poured into the plays that this great man created for us. A brief, albeit very unjustly brief, survey of Moliere's life begins with him kind of leaving his family, leaving his father's business to pursue theater. Not what his father wanted him to do. He could have had a nice royal appointment with the king, and instead he went out to the provinces to create some theater. He came back and luckily found a different royal appointment where he became one of the favorite playwrights, favorite performers for Louis XIV. Many of his plays premiered at the Palais Royal, the Royal Theatre of France. And what is, I think, most telling about Moliere's life and Moliere's plays, what I have called the tragedy of his comedies. There's several meanings in this phrase, the first being that while Moliere considered himself and wanted desperately to be a great tragic actor, he simply wasn't very good at it, and he couldn't write the best tragedies. But the famous, infamous story about his first meeting with Louis was that his comic afterpiece is what sold him and got his troupe into the court of Louis XIV. But there's also something tragic about his comedies too, because he did pour so much of his soul into what he gives to his characters, and so much of his own personal pain can be revealed and can be found in the texts and in the relationships that he creates on stage while we read them, and we know that they're hilarious, funny juxtapositions of humanity, of husband and wife, of the different, I guess, collisions between royalty, religion. There's also a lot of truthful pain that's hidden beneath that. And they really do kind of come from his experiences with the two great women of his life, Madeleine Béjart and Armande Béjart. Armande, the daughter of Madeleine, who became Moliere's wife, who was much younger than him, which led to several untrue reports about perhaps him being the father of his own daughter, which again, completely untrue, but his whole life. And even more so was Armande's sometimes love for Moliere, but sometimes just disinterest in Moliere, which we see a lot in the play that comes before The Miser. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to get off of too much of a tangent here so I will point you in the direction of another one of my favorite books by Virginia Scott called Women on Stage in the Early Modern France. This is an amazing survey of fantastic actresses and how they navigated the social complexities of performing on stage and all of the scandal that came with it, mostly unjustified scandal that came with it. You can find a lot about both Madeleine and Armande in this wonderful book. I'm sure we know this, but just to review, probably his most famous play there on the left, Tartuffe. There's a list of a lot of plays he's also very famous for. School for Husbands was probably his first big hit. School for Wives, a lot of controversy there because it did depict a man marrying someone much younger or wanting to marry someone much younger. And there was a lot of whispers about that being a parallel to Moliere's life. The Misanthrope, about a man that loves a woman who will never love him back. That sounds a lot like Moliere's personal life. And then he follows it up with The Miser. And with The Miser, he sees a man who just completely turns love off in his life and makes his life all about a different kind of love, this love for money. And then the final two plays that I have listed there, two of just many plays that I left out. I'm so sorry to not do him justice, with Learned Ladies and, of course, The Imaginary Invalid, his famous last play, him passing away after a performance of that. Okay, our play, The Miser, in 1668. What are we going to look for? Well, certainly we're looking at greed and avarice, those old chestnuts, how money is affecting both our protagonist, Harpagon, and also how it's not impacting those around him. And people are, there's extremely funny, acerbic dialogue about the importance of money throughout this, about its certain predominance over love from his perspective. And so we can follow that and really find contextual connections to what we're talking about even today, even in 2020. I think the next biggest part about this play for us to keep in mind too is its commedia connection. This is by far his richest, I guess, expansion of commedia in his plays. And we have, of course, the relationships between the Pantalone character, the Harlequin, the Arlecchino character, and then beyond the specifics of the actual commedia characters that have been plucked out of the past and put into this play and given agency, there's also some embedded physical humor in this text that I know we're on Zoom and I know we're hearing beautiful words being spoken and we're not going to be able to see a lot of that physicality, but it's important for us to remember how much physically is going to be happening behind these words, between the lines being acted. So there is so much about improvisation and commedia that's just layered into this beautiful text, not only his original text, but the text that we have today, the text that Nick gives us. Now, a few important parts about this, or points about this play from kind of historical perspective. It wasn't that popular when it first came out. Goldsby tells us that it has a mere 8 performances before it moved on, before the theater moved on to a different show. And a lot of that comes from this unpleasant discussion of love, this kind of new way that the audiences of France were experiencing Moliere's plays. To be blunt, they expected something fun and lively and upbeat, not this old curmudgeon guy who's more impressed with money than anything else. So to see this put up on stage, see their favorite actor of the time up on stage playing a character that was completely different from what they'd expected, kind of turned them off a bit. But again, speaking about this play historically, it's not a surprise that he created this character. This comes right on the heels of The Misanthrope, where where Célimène, the woman that he loves, that Alceste loves in The Misanthrope, turns him away, and the play ends with a veritable slamming of the door behind Alceste as he says, "I'm going to go off and live in a world where vice is king." The very next play is The Miser, where vice is his king. So we have this wonderful kind of historical story being continued in The Miser. Something for us to think about too are our contextual expectations of theater. Why are we turned on to certain plays, turned off to other plays? What is it we're bringing into this experience ourselves as audiences? What are our expectations? And one allusion that I'd like to draw us to is one of my favorite playwrights, yours too, I'm sure, August Wilson. And so I would say, think about The Miser not only as a play that stands on its own, but then think about it as a play that is set apart from the plays preceding it and the plays that are after it. So I bring up August Wilson because, picture yourself being drawn to a play by August Wilson that's not a part of the century cycle. That's not a part of that history of Pittsburgh throughout the 20th century. And you'll say, okay, I'm not quite used to this, not quite ready for this. And then after that kind of washes over you, you dive into it and say, this is a beautiful play. I should have given it more time. should have given it more attention, and that's not what was happening back in France then. And that's why we see this revival of the play throughout the centuries. We see German translations, we see English translations that are just run through the next 400 years of theater history, because people did find a relevance in this play beyond how it had been pigeonholed as one of those funny plays by Moliere. All right, last thing about this play is, as we're diving into it ourselves, think about the contemporary thematic comments that this play could be making. What about money is running the world today? That's a very obvious question for us to think about, I'm sure. But there are certain comparisons and parallels we can easily draw that I hope will come up when we turn to our feedback session. Those of you that were part of the reading that Alex Murphy had of his original play last time should recognize these two images. Liz Lerman's critical response process has been the hallmark for the school that I am currently attending for our feedback for new play work, for new play development. And I think it works very well for translations too, because we can still ask some very critical questions that have nothing to do with our opinions, that are specifically there to make this play better, or to make this play pop in a different way. So what I'll put up here, again, it's going to be a repeat for some of us, and I don't expect you to read all these many, many words. I'm going to summarize these and put them in the chat box for us later on, so we can have these after the play is over. But the overall synthesis of the Liz Lerman critical response is letting a play wash over us, responding to that play with how it evoked certain emotions, what excited us, what was interesting, what struck us the most. We follow that with the artist, Nick, the translator, asking us questions. Perhaps in hearing the play out loud, he has 4 or 5 moments he'd like to ask us about. We follow that with our neutral observations or our neutral questions. Not necessarily, as the example goes, why was it so dark on stage, but what are your thoughts on the lighting in this scene? Keeping it as neutral and as beneficial for the process as possible. And then finally, we get to share our opinions. And hopefully by the time we get to share our opinions, those opinions become a bit more neutral and a bit more, I guess, curative for the process. Resetting for our reading, consider these 4 things. The first, Moliere's relationship with his work, with his king, with his family, and with his troupe. Certainly consider the role that avarice plays in each of these characters' actions. He created these characters individually, uniquely, and how that might propel these characters forward in their stories. That third point, I'll come back to it again, the physicality. Imagine yourselves in a theater watching these folks jump across the stage, have their fun fights, moving in and out. Picture the scatological hue. I'm sorry, I did it wrong. Cool, I think I'm back. Yes, but think about the physicality. Think about what these great actors are going to watch in the next couple of hours will be able to do with this language. What is between the lines that will help to physicalize and bring this all to life for us? And then finally, if you're going to stick around for us at the end, think specifically about this play as an adaptation and translation of the work. We're not really wanting to correct the work of Moliere. We don't want to think about it as correcting Moliere. We don't want to think about it as correcting Nick. Of course, we want to think about it as trying to get the most out of this text and out of this story as we possibly can. So think about Liz Lerman's critical response process as we're doing this, and we'll be off to the races after the play is over. With that, thank you very much.
Bravo, Colin. Give Colin some love in the chat box, if you will. Colin is one of our favorites. Colin was at the very first script circle that ever happened 4 years ago in 2 apartments back. So I appreciate that, Colin. Thank you for that presentation. What a beautiful way to get us all on the same page before we dive in. So people, it's time. It's ready. pour yourself an extra glass of wine, and we'll have some fun here. Just know, this is a French play. It is not written in French, but we, myself especially, will most likely be botching some French as we go. So just know that this is for fun. This is just to get the text out loud, a great experience for all of us to come together, to join together as a community. Low stakes, a wonderful way to wear your pajamas and hear a play, right? I'm gonna have all my actors introduce themselves, tell us who they're gonna be playing today. Guys, I'm just gonna say your name, you unmute yourself and let us know, and then we'll head right in. We'll read the first 2 acts, take a nice little break here. So I'll start off. My name's Nicole Marie Green. I'm gonna be reading Dame Claude.
I am Andy Perkins, and I will be playing La Flèche.
Chloe and Jake, do you wanna introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Jake Collier, and I will be reading Maître Jacques, Harpagon's cook and coach driver.
And I'm Chloe. I'm reading Le Commissaire, and I think I'm 2 characters. We'll see when it comes up. And Son Clerche, which might be his clerk.
Wow, excellent, beautiful French. Callie and Jacob, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Jacob. I'm going to be reading Brenda Vaughan.
I'm Callie, and I will be reading Maître Simon, right?
So,
Yeah.
We'll go. Allison, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Allison, and I'll be playing Marian.
Easy. Darrington.
Hi, I'm Darrington, and I'll be playing Cleon.
Nice. Yatunde, you look like you're in a beautiful place.
Yes, I'm in the French Parisian area, and I will be playing Elise.
Excellent. Tim, and just so everyone knows, Tim hopped on this crew an hour ago, so bravo to Tim. We had someone who had an internet down. So Tim, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Tim. I put pants on just for this occasion,
Yes.
which I guess is not necessary, but I will be playing Anselme.
Maya.
I'm Maya, and I'll be playing Frosine.
And Maya's coming in from the East Coast to read with us. Maya was in our first few script circles as well. Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'll be reading Le Stage Directions.
Excellent. Justin and Deanna.
Hi, I'm Justin. I'll be reading Valère.
And I'm Deanna, and I'll be reading La Malouche.
Sounds good. And finally, last but certainly not least, Mr. Walter. So, yeah, you unmute.
The old man thing and not unmute myself. And I am playing the old man. I'm playing the miser. Parjon. How perfect.
Perfect. So what we're going to try, just so you all know we're all on the same page, we're going to try to have the actors turn off their cameras when they're not in a scene, turn them back on, but you may see actors float in and out on your screen. Luckily, we all look good. And we all may or may not be wearing pants. So I say we just dive on in there. Ryan's going to read through. Once again, everybody, all my actors stay on. He's going to read through all of the characters. Just give a little wave to the screen so we can see. It's cool. And good luck to my actors. Thank you all for being here to our Moliere Sunday Script Circle. Let's have a ball.
Okay, please give a wave when I read your name. Harpagon. Cléante. Elise. Valère. Marianne. Ensemble. Frosine. Maître Simon. Maître Jacques. La Flèche. Dame Claude. Bryn Vion. La Merluche. And La Commissaire et son Clerche. The play is set in Paris. The Miser, Act 1, Scene 1.
What's wrong? Elise, why do you seem so depressed right after declaring your love to me? Even with all my joy, I can see your sadness. Tell me, do you feel guilty for making me so happy? Are you regretting our engagement, which my own passion forced you into?
No, Valer, I can't regret what I've done for you. I just feel carried away by the force of my own feelings, and I hardly have the strength to wish things had happened otherwise. But to be honest, I'm worried that I love you more than I should.
But Elise, what could you have to be afraid of in all the good that you've done for me?
Oh my God, so many things at once. My father's anger, my family's criticism, the whole world's disapproval. But above all else, Valer, a change in your heart and that criminal coldness that men use to repay love when it seems too earnest.
Oh, but don't make the mistake of judging me by others. At least accuse me of anything else before thinking that I would go back on what I've promised. I love you too much for that, and that love will last as long as I live.
Oh, Valer, it's always the same story. Every man says the same thing, but only different in their actions.
Because only actions reveal their true selves. At least wait to judge my feelings by them before accusing me of these crimes invented out of your own fear. Don't destroy me with your outraged suspicion. Instead, give me the time to prove my sincerity to you.
Oh, it is so easy to be convinced by someone you love. Valer, I don't think your heart is capable of hurting me. I know you love me with a real love and that you'll be faithful. I don't want to doubt that in the least. I'm just worried about the blame that others might put on me.
But what makes you scared of that?
I would have nothing to worry about if everyone saw you the way I do, as a man whose qualities justify everything I've done for you. My heart justifies itself by pointing to your goodness, and I thank God that we have found one another. I can't help but think of the danger that first put us face to face, and that shocking generosity that made you risk your life to save mine from the waves. The loving care that you showered me with after pulling me from the water, and the constant proofs of your love that lasted through time and hardship has led you to leave your family and country and follow me here. Hide your true status for my benefit and to reduce yourself in order to see me by working as my father's servant. It's all so wonderful, and it's more than enough to convince me we should be married, but it might not be enough for others, and I can't be sure they'll see it my way.
From what you said, it's not simply because of my love that I deserve you. And as far as your doubts, your father himself has done everything he can to justify you to others. And the extent of his greediness, the austere way he lives with his children, which would justify much stranger things than that. Elise, I'm sorry to talk about your father like this, but you know there isn't much good that can be said of him. But if I can finally find my parents, we won't have much trouble making our marriage seem appealing. I can't keep waiting, and I'll go and I'll find it by myself if they take any longer to arrive.
Oh, Valer, please stay put and focus on trying to win over my father.
You know how hard I've been trying, all the brown-nosing I've had to do to get the position with him in the first place, the submissiveness I put on, all the feelings I hide just to please him, the character I play over and over again just to be in his good graces. I can tell I'm making progress. All you have to do to win people over is pretend to share their opinions, agree with their views, praise their faults, and congratulate them on anything they do. There's no danger of overdoing it by being too complacent. You can lay it on as much as you want, and the best part is that it's the smart ones who are the most susceptible to flattery. When seasoned with enough praise, you can get them to swallow anything. Admittedly, one's sincerity suffers a bit in my line of work, but when you need people, you have to adjust to them. And since this is the only way of getting their support, I say, don't hate the flatterers, hate the flattered.
But why don't you try to win over my brother as well, just in case the servant thinks to reveal our secret?
No, the father and son are so different. It would be impossible to play the two at the same time and take them both into my confidence. Do what you can to win your brother. Take advantage of your friendship and bring him over to our side. He's coming. He's coming. I should go. Take this chance to talk to him and only tell him as much about us as you think he needs to know.
I don't know if I'll have the strength to reveal so much to him.
Scene 2. Cleant, Elise.
I'm so glad I found you alone. I've been dying to talk to you. There's something I need to tell you, but it has to stay secret.
Well, here I am. What do you have to tell me?
Oh, Elise, I could go on, but it's all wrapped up in 3 words. I'm in love.
You're in love.
Yes, I'm in love. But before I say any more, I know that I'm dependent on our father, and that means I occasionally have to defer to him. I think that we shouldn't think about marriage without getting the consent of the people who brought us into the world, that they have a lot to say in what we do, and that we can't act without their blessing, that since they aren't the ones in love, they're able to be rational and objectively see what's right, that we should trust their thoughtfulness more than our feelings, and that young people acting too quickly is responsible for, well, most disasters. Look, I'm starting with this disclaimer so you don't have to go to the trouble, because at the end of the day, I'm too in love to care about any of it, so please spare me the lecture.
So you're engaged with a woman you're in love with?
Not yet, but I've made up my mind. And I know that I'm repeating myself, but please don't try to convince me not to.
Do I seem like the kind of person who would?
No, Elise, but you aren't in love. You don't know the sweet violence that tender love does to our hearts, and I'm afraid of you being too sensible about all of this.
Don't talk to me about being sensible. Everyone loses their sense from time to time, and if I told you everything, maybe I'd seem a lot less sensible than you ever were.
God, if only you were in love too.
Let's cut to the chase. Who is she?
A young woman who hasn't been in the neighborhood for very long. She's the kind of person no one could help but fall in love with. I don't think the universe has ever created such a perfect person. I mean, I felt transformed the moment I saw her. She's named Marian, and she lives with her sick mother who she looks after, and so carefully too. You couldn't imagine a more loving daughter. The way she does favors for her, bringing her things, listening to her complaints, it's really too touching. She has the most charming way of doing everything. It's as if you can see a million graces sparkle in every action. And on top of that, she's so gentle and kind and modest. And, oh God, Elise, I wish you could have seen her.
I feel like I know her already. And frankly, to know what kind of person she is, it's enough for me to know that you love her.
I did some digging, and apparently they aren't too well off. And even though they live so modestly, they're hardly getting by. Elise, can you imagine how good it would feel to be able to help someone that you're in love with? To give a bit of aid to a family that deserves it? And imagine how horrible it feels to realize that just because of our father's greed, I can't do any of it, or even offer her a small sign of my affection.
I know, Cleant. It must be so painful for you.
You wouldn't believe how horrible it is. Is there anything more cruel than the constant budgeting he forces us into, that cold, calculating thriftiness we're expected to stew in? What's the use of all that money if we'll be too old to enjoy it by the time that we get it? If in the meantime we're forced to ask tailors for handouts just to get something decent to wear? Anyway, I wanted to talk to you to try and get a sense of how he'll react to my decision. I've decided that if he's against it, I'll leave town with my fiancée and make do with what we can get. For now, I'm looking to borrow money anywhere that I can. At least, if you're in the same boat and our father opposes everything that you want for yourself, we'll both leave him and financially free ourselves of all his oppressive greediness.
It's true that every day he gives us another reason to miss our mother, to wish that she hadn't died, and...
I hear his voice. Let's go talk somewhere else so that we can try and find a way to work around his heartlessness.
Scene 3. Harpagon, La Flèche.
Get the hell out and don't say another word. Come on, let's go. Get off my property. Don't think I don't know what you're doing because I've got you pinned, you bloodsucker.
I've never met anyone as meat as this old geezer in my life. He's going in for the kill.
Quit muttering to yourself and speak up.
What are you throwing me out for?
I'm the one asking the questions, you shit. Now get out before I throw you out.
What did I do to you?
You gave me the idea of kicking you out.
My boss, your son, told me to wait here.
Well, you can wait for him in the street, and I better not find you bumming around my house again, just waiting to see what you can get your hands on. You know what I don't need? A little spy with his sad little puppy dog eyes, watching everything I do, eating my food and casing my house to see what he can take.
How the hell would anyone steal anything from you? You think I'm going to try and steal from someone who keeps everything locked up and guards it day and night?
I've got the right to lock up and check on whatever I want, whenever I want. I never saw such a pair of weaselly eyes. Jesus, I hope he doesn't know anything about my money. You're just the type to let the whole world know I've got money hidden away, aren't you?
You've got money hidden away?
No, Twit, I didn't say that. I'm losing it. I'm just telling you not to go spreading the rumor that I do.
What difference does it make if you have it or you don't? For us, it's all the same.
Ah, I see you're a wise guy. You know what I do to wise guys? I bust them in their heads.
He raises
Now, get out of here.
All right, I'm going.
Wait a minute. You didn't take anything, did you?
What could I possibly have taken?
Come here so I can see you. Show me what's in your hands.
Voila.
Now show me the other ones.
The other ones?
Yeah?
Here they are.
You don't have anything in your pants?
Have a look for yourself.
Classic.
These kinds of baggy pants are just a place to hide something you've lifted. If it were up to me, I'd line up every baggy pant manufacturer, distributor, and salesman and put them in front of a firing squad.
God, a guy like this deserves exactly what's coming to him. I would love to steal from him.
What?
What?
What did you say about stealing?
I said that with guys like me, you have to do a real thorough pat-down to make sure I didn't steal anything.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
I wish every greedy bastard would drop dead.
What was that? What did you say?
What did I say?
Yeah, about greedy bastards?
I said that I wish every greedy bastard would drop dead.
Who are you talking about?
Greedy bastards.
And who are greedy bastards?
Villains. Misers.
But who are the misers?
What are you getting so worked up for?
I'll get worked up about what I want.
Did you think I was talking about you?
I think what I think. But I want you to tell me what you mean when you say what you said.
I was talking to my hat.
Yeah, and I'm talking to your fat face.
Are you telling me I can't badmouth misers?
No, I'm telling you, you can stop disrespecting me, close that ugly mouth, and shut the hell up.
I didn't name any names.
I swear to God, if you say another word, I will waste you.
Look, if it looks and smells like shit, it's probably...
Will you ever close your mouth?
If I must.
You son of a...
Oh, wait, look. Here's another pocket. Are you satisfied?
That's it. Give it back.
What?
Whatever you took from me.
I didn't take anything.
Are you serious?
As a heart attack.
Fine. Now piss off.
You really rolled out the red carpet for me on this exit.
I'll leave it to that black conscience of yours. God, that rickety palooka of a servant is a real pain in my ass. You just can't find good help nowadays.
Scene 4. Elise, Cleante, Harpagon.
One must admit, it's not nothing hiding a load of cash in your own house. It would be so much easier if I had it tied up in investments and only keep what I need for everyday expenses. If only it was a really top-notch hiding place somewhere. I don't like safes. Wouldn't trust one if my life depended on it. Might as well send a save the date to thieves. It's always the first thing they go for. At the same time, I don't know if it was smart to bury the 10,000 crowns I was paid in yesterday in the garden. I mean, 10,000 crowns is not an inconsiderable sum, and... Ooh.
Elise and Cleante enter, whispering.
Good, I almost let it slip. You're losing your cool, old boy. You're even starting to talk to yourself. What is it?
Nothing, Father.
How long have you been here for?
We've just arrived.
And did you hear what...
What, Father?
I mean, what I mean is...
What?
If you heard what I was saying.
No.
You did. You heard it.
Sorry, but no.
Oh, come on. I could tell you at least heard a couple words in it. What I was saying was that I was thinking about how hard it is to make money nowadays. And I was saying that you've got to be pretty savvy to have 10,000 liquid cash in your own home.
We didn't want to interrupt you.
I mean, it really takes a load off my back to give you an explanation. I mean, imagine if you got the idea in your head that it was me with the 10,000 crowns.
It's none of our business.
Don't get me wrong, I'd kill for 10,000 crowns.
I don't think...
10,000, that'd be all she wrote.
That sort of thing is...
And don't think I couldn't use it.
I think...
That could really get me out of a bind.
You might.
With that, I'd have to hardly worry the way I do now with things as tough as they are.
Oh, come on. You can hardly complain. Everyone knows that you're well off.
What? Who told you that I'm well off? I've got 2 words for you. Fake news. 10 to 1, you heard that from those sharks in the local media.
Don't get so worked up.
Well, let me tell you, it's a sad, sad world when your own children turn against you.
We're turning against you because we said that you do well for yourself?
Absolutely. Today, people are running their mouths about how much I make. Tomorrow, they'll show up at my front door asking for my tax returns. And you, too, hemorrhaging money all over the place is hardly helping.
What are you talking about?
Oh, you want to talk? Let's talk about those fancy new clothes you're prancing around town in. What's that? Italian leather? I warned your sister about this yesterday. But with you, it's 10 times worse. It's shameful. Seeing you done up from head to toe like that, the money that must have cost you, you could have made a nice little investment. I must have told you 20 times. I don't like you strutting around acting like a prince. Now that I think of it, to be done up like that, you got to be robbing me.
And how would I be robbing you?
How would I know? The bottom line is that there is no way you could afford it all that junk.
Fine. Do you really want to know how I afford it? Gambling. I'm pretty good at cards, and I like to wear what I win.
Well, that's no good at all. If you're good at cards, you should take advantage of it and put what you win in some sound, stable investments. But here, I'll cut you a deal. And forget about the clothes. If you can, at the very least, tell me what all of these accessories are about. What's the point? Do you really need that belt? Buy tighter pants next time. They'll stand by themselves. How about those socks? What? Are your feet too dainty to feel the shoe sole? And what's that? Do you put some kind of oil in your hair? Just wash it less. That's free oil right there. And you're saving on water. I would estimate conservatively, with those expenses alone, come to at least 20 pistoles. And that money invested, even if you only got 8%, would bring a return of 18 livres, 6 sous, and 8 deniers a year.
You're right.
Bah, let's forget about that and talk about something else. Eh? They're making signals to each other. I think they're trying to steal my wallet. What are you doing with your hands? What's all this about?
Me and Cleante are trying to decide who's going to speak first. We both have something important to tell you.
Oh, yeah? Well, I have something important to tell you, too.
Father, we want to talk to you about marriage.
Well, great. Marriage is what I want to talk to you about.
Oh, God, Father.
What's the problem? Are you just scared by the word or the actual thing itself?
The word marriage might scare both of us, depending on how you understand it. We're worried that our feelings aren't exactly going to align with your opinions.
Hey, how about a little faith here? Let's all calm down. Now, I know what's best for both of you, and you don't have to worry about a thing once you hear what I've got cooking. Let's start at the beginning. Have you noticed a young woman named Marian who lives in the neighborhood?
Yes, I have.
And you?
I've heard about her.
What do you think of this girl, Cleante?
She's a very charming woman.
What do you see in her face?
That she's honest, intelligent.
Her personality?
She's amazing. There's no question.
Do you think a girl like that would be worth seriously considering?
Yes, Father.
That she would be a desirable match.
Very desirable.
That she's the kind of woman.
Without a doubt. No.
You got a little freeze. That's okay.
Okay.
And she's the kind of woman you could run a household with.
Without a doubt.
And that her husband would be happy to live her.
Definitely.
Then there's only one problem. I'm worried she won't bring as much money into the marriage as one might hope.
Oh, but Father, money doesn't matter when it means marrying a good, honest person.
All right, please excuse me if I don't go in for all that jazz. What I will say, however, is that if one doesn't find all the money one would hope for in a partner, there are other means of achieving a, shall we say, desirable outcome.
That goes without saying.
In any case, it's good to know that we see eye to eye. Because frankly, honesty and kindness, they've touched my heart. I think as long as I can work out this dowry issue, I would be delighted to marry her.
What?
What do you mean, what?
You said you would be delighted
to marry Marianne.
Oh, what you? As in you yourself?
Me. What's not computing it?
I have to excuse myself. I think I'm going to pass out.
Oh, come on. It'll be fine. Why don't you go into the kitchen and have a big glass of water? That's my son for you, ladies and gentlemen. Less fight in him than a one-legged, half-blind chicken with a few too many rounds in the ring. So that's what I've decided for myself, Elise. As for your brother, I picked out a nice elderly widow that someone came by to talk to me about this morning. And for you, I've chosen Signor Anselme.
Signor Anselm?
Yes, he's experienced, prudent, wise, and not a day over 50. I would also add that he has quite a lot of money.
Father, I hope you understand that I would rather not marry.
Oh, well, daughter, sweetheart, my own flesh and blood, I hope you understand that I would rather you did marry.
I'm sorry, Father.
No, I'm sorry, little girl.
I only have the greatest respect for Signor Anselm, but if you don't mind, I will not marry him.
I have only the greatest respect for you, but if you don't mind, you'll be marrying him tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight.
That's not going to happen.
That will happen.
No.
Yes.
I said no.
Oh, I said yes.
You can't reduce me to this.
I will reduce you to this.
I would rather kill myself than marry a man like that.
You're not killing anyone, and you're going to marry him. What a mouth. Who's ever heard of a daughter talking to her father like this?
Whoever heard of a father trying to force his daughter to marry like this?
What could you possibly have against his marriage? And you know what? I bet my last penny that most people would take my side.
And I would bet my life that any reasonable person would take issue with it.
Well, hey, here's Valer. What say we make a little wager and have him judge for us, all right? Or judge for us.
All right.
And whatever his verdict is, you'll accept it?
Yes, I'll accept his judgment.
All right, we've got ourselves a deal, young lady.
Scene 5. Valer, Harpagon, Elise.
Come here, Valer. Me and Elise here have a bit of an ideological impasse, and we've agreed to let you judge who's right.
Oh, you are right, sir. There's no question about it.
Do you know what we're talking about?
True, but you couldn't possibly be wrong, sir. You're always right.
I want to have my daughter married tonight to a man as rich as he is wise, and this little firecracker says to my face that she refuses. What do you think of that?
What do I think?
Yeah. What?
I would say that a priori, I agree with you, and that you can do no wrong. That being said, I would argue that perhaps she, in fact, isn't completely wrong, and...
What do you mean? Signor Anselme is one of the great, a noble, refined, wise gentleman. Plus, he's loaded. And all of his kids from his first marriage are dead. You tell me how you could do better than that.
This is true. But she could make the case, and perhaps rightly, that marrying tonight might be rushing things ever so slightly. She might need a little more time to find out if she is emotionally compatible with...
Hey, cart diem, we've got to grab the bull by the horns on this one. We're in the unique position here. He's willing to marry her without a dowry.
Without a dowry?
Read my lips.
Ah! Well, it's all very convincing. Suppose you can't argue with that.
I would be saving quite a bit of money.
Very true. It goes without saying. However, perhaps your daughter might believe marriage to be a serious decision that her future happiness or misery is dependent on, and that a promise that lasts until death, one must be especially careful.
But no dowry.
You're right. That's certainly worth taking into account. There are those, however, who would say that under such circumstances, your daughter's feelings should be taken into account, and the difference in age, personality, and emotions could make this marriage a disaster.
But no dowry.
Right. There's no denying that. Who could argue with such an advantage? Not that there aren't many fathers who would prioritize their children's happiness over the money that they could save. who would never sacrifice their daughter's feelings to save a few bills. They would be more concerned with making sure that the marriage is founded on the mutual affection, which is at the heart of marital respect, peace, and joy, and what's more...
But no dowry.
Right. What can you say in response to no dowry?
Did you hear that? It sounded like a dog barking. Is someone trying to steal my money? Don't move. I'll be back in 2 shakes.
Yeah, what are you thinking talking to him like that?
So that I don't set him off. So that we can actually succeed in getting what we want. Arguing with him outright would be the quickest way to screw this up. With people like him, you have to make an especially roundabout argument. His temperament is so opposed to any kind of resistance. He's such a contrarian that he'd rather refuse to listen to common sense than admit that he's wrong. The only thing that we can do is to point him in the right direction and string him along a path he thinks he's choosing for himself until we get what we want.
But Valer, what about this marriage?
We'll keep looking for a pretext to call it off.
But what excuse could we possibly find if it's supposed to happen tonight?
You'll have to get them to postpone by pretending to be sick.
But they'll just call a doctor and realize that I'm faking it.
Are you kidding? Have you ever seen a doctor? They show up and you tell them that you have whatever disease you feel like, and all they'll do is cook up a few reasons to explain where it supposedly came from.
Jesus, that was really touch and go there for a minute. Turns out it was nothing.
Our last resort is that we could run away together and be safe. That is, at least if you love me enough. But after all, a daughter must obey her father, young lady. She shouldn't worry so much about how her husband looks, and as soon as a classic no dowry situation arises, she should be willing to take what's given to her.
Well said. God, I love this guy.
Monsieur, please forgive me if I'm overstepping my bounds by talking to your daughter like this.
Are you kidding? I'm delighted, and I want you to consider yourself totally in control of her. No use trying to run away now. I'm giving this man full paternal authority over you, and you'd better follow his word to a T.
Now you'll have to listen to me. Monsieur, I'll follow her in order to finish my lecture.
By all means. You're doing me a favor.
She needs to be kept on a tight leash.
Absolutely. I'll have to...
It isn't worth your trouble. I can handle her.
Sure. I'm going to take a little stroll around town. I'll be back before too long.
Of course. One must admit that money is the most precious thing in the world. You should thank your lucky stars to have been given such a good father. He understands life. When someone takes your daughter without a dowry, you don't look back. It's the bottom line. The lack of a dowry comes first, before beauty, birth, youth, honor, wisdom, and principles.
What a guy. Couldn't have said it better myself. Oh, at least there's someone in my corner.
Act 2, Scene 1, Cléante, La Flèche.
Hey, where the hell have you been? Didn't I tell you to...
Yes, monsieur, and I came back here to wait for you until dark if necessary, but monsieur, your father wouldn't listen to me and chased me out of the house. He has to be the meanest man I've ever met.
How's our project coming along? There's no time to waste. Since I last saw you, I found out that I'm competing with my own father.
Your father's in love?
Yeah, and it took everything I had to hide how shocked I was.
Imagine him being in love. Where's he coming up with this stuff? This has to be some kind of big, elaborate joke. People like him are not meant for romance.
What did I do to deserve this? Is there some kind of diabolical mastermind of a god that thought to himself, hey, why don't we turn on the sentimental part of the brain in the world's worst human being?
But why are you still keeping your own feelings a secret?
To make him less suspicious and to make sure I'm in the best strategic position to keep this marriage from going through. What did the creditors say?
Oh boy, monsieur. Having to borrow puts you in a tough position, and you have to deal with some dodgy business when you're working with lenders.
So that's it?
Hear me out. Maitre Simon, the broker we've been negotiating with, is really optimistic and has been pulling out all the stops for you. He says you've got a face he can trust.
And I'll have the 15 million francs I asked for?
Yes, but there are a few strings attached that you'll have to go along with if you want this to work out.
Did he let you speak to the actual lender?
Ah, monsieur, that's not the way these kinds of things go down. This guy's even more worried about staying anonymous than you are. People get very cagey around business transactions like this. He refused to reveal his name, but they arranged for the two of you to meet in a borrowed house so that he can get a sense of your assets and your family. I imagine that all you'll have to do to move things along is to mention your father's name.
And they won't be able to prevent me receiving the inheritance from my mother's death?
First things first. He has a few conditions that you should consider before the meeting takes place. Assuming the lender is content with the security set forth and that the borrower is of age, from a family whose resources are ample, secured, and unencumbered by previous debts or obligations, the bond in question shall be issued in front of a notary, judged by the lender to be of good standing and of trustworthy nature, insofar as he shall ensure that the act takes place in due form.
I have no objections to that.
The lender, to ensure himself of clear conscience, shall advance the agreed upon sum with no more than a 5.5% rate of interest.
At only 5.5%? God, what a fair man. You can't argue with that.
That's true. But as the aforementioned lender does not have in hand the sum in question, and in order to accommodate the wishes of the borrower, is obliged to borrow from a third party at a rate of 20%, the borrower must assume the expense, ignoring the 5.5%, as it is for his benefit that the aforementioned lender engages in the secondary arrangement.
What the hell? What kind of a con man did you set me up with? That's 25% interest he wants me to pay on his little pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. You'll have to think it over.
What do you want me to think over? I need the money, so there's no choice. I have to accept his conditions.
That's what I told him.
Anything else?
Just one last article. Of the 15,000 francs requested, the borrower shall only receive 12,000 livres in cash, and as for the 1,000 remaining écus, the borrower must accept the household effects listed in the accompanying inventory, fairly evaluated by the aforementioned lender at the most moderate prices possible.
What's that supposed to mean?
Listen to the inventory. Item: a four-poster bed, including Hungarian drapes tastefully woven on an olive-colored fabric, with 6 matching chairs and a counterpane, all in excellent condition and lined with red and blue in a silk blend. Item: a bed canopy cut from an almal serge in a pale pink with an accompanying silk fringe.
What does he want me to do with all of this?
I'm not done. Item: a stately tapestry depicting the love of Gambeau and Massy. Item: a large table in walnut with 12 rotating legs, including 2 extending table leaves and 6 matching stools.
Jesus Christ, what do I want with any of it?
Hold your horses. I'm not done. Item: 3 large muskets with mother-of-pearl inlay with 3 assorted forked stands. Item, a brick oven with 2 retorts and 3 flasks, ideal for those who might want to take up home brewing.
This is starting to piss me off.
Hey, simmer down. Item, 1 handcrafted lute from Bologna, complete with all of its strings, or at least as many as one needs. Item, 1 table for the game known as pigeonholes, and a snakes and ladders board, vastly improved from the Greek model and perfect for passing the time when one doesn't know what to do with oneself. Item, a 3.5-foot long stuffed crocodile, an amusing novelty item, perfect for hanging above the previously itemized 4-poster bed. The listed assets valued actually at more than 4,500 livres shall be here considered a mere 1,000 écus due to the generosity of the lender.
Whoever this clown is, he can take his generosity and go hang himself. I expected there to be some strings attached, but this guy's a loan shark, plain and simple. You'd think he would be happy enough with the cutthroat interest rate, but no, he also has to try and pawn off his garbage on me for 3,000 livres. I'd hardly make 200 écus from all that. And the worst part is that I'm going to have to accept it. I have no other choice. I've got the knife to my throat and he knows it.
The way I see it, if you don't mind me saying so, monsieur, is that you're making the same mistake as Rabelais' Panurge, I think. You're borrowing money at a high premium, buying high, selling low, and are going to end up with nothing.
What do you expect me to do? Jesus, this is how the old treat the young, and then they turn around and act surprised when sons want their fathers dead.
Your father could probably get Christ himself to start making death threats. Call it a defect, but I don't particularly have the desire to be hanged anytime soon. Sure, now and then I'm involved in some shady business, but 9 times out of 10, if there's a chance I'm going to get killed, well, I back out. I gotta say, the way he acts makes me want to take him for everything he's got. And if I did rob him, I think I'd feel that I was doing the world a favor.
Give me that inventory. I want to read it over myself.
Scene 2. Maître Simon, Harpagon, Cléante, Laflèche.
Yes, monsieur. He is a young man in need of money. His financial situation is forcing him to borrow, and he will accept any condition that you make.
But are you sure there's no risk involved, Maitre Simon? You know the borrower's name, and you can vouch for his family background?
No, I can't tell you much about the client. I was put in contact with him by chance, but you'll meet him soon enough, and his associate assured me that you will be pleased with this predicament. All I can tell you is that his family is extremely rich, his mother passed away, and that he can assure you that his father will die within 8 months.
Well, that's something. If you ask me, Maitre Simon, good Christian charity obliges us to help those in need when we can. What can I say? I'm a sucker for charity.
Of course.
What is this? Why is Maitre Simon talking to your father?
Do you think someone told him who I am? You didn't let it slip, did you?
Hey, who told you we were meeting here? You must be in a real hurry. You must understand, monsieur. It wasn't me who gave them your name and address. In my opinion, though, there's no harm done. They're very discreet people, and this way you can discuss things right away.
What?
Monsieur is the individual I was talking about, the one who's borrowing me the 15,000 livres.
So you're the son of a bitch who's willing to sink so low as to take out a loan?
So you're the old bastard who would sink so low as to offer one in the first place?
I should have known it was you, ruining yourself by taking out loans left and right.
I should have known it was you, looking to profit on cutthroat lending scams.
Don't you feel any shame standing in front of me after what you've done?
Won't you feel any shame standing in front of anyone at all after this?
You mean to tell me you don't feel any guilt to stoop so low, and just because you blew your money all over town? Where'd all that money go? That money your poor parents barely managed to scrape together.
Doesn't it embarrass you, what you're doing? I mean, you have to realize at some level that you're a bad guy, with all of your little schemes and all just so you can stack up a few more bills by any means necessary. With this, though, you've really outdone yourself. Between the interest rates and the inventory of garbage, you're becoming an A-list con man.
Get out of my sight, you prick! Get out of my sight!
Who's more criminal, in your opinion? The one who borrows because he needs the money, or the one who extorts money he doesn't need at all?
You get out of here before I make you get out. I don't regret this one. Gives me all more reason to keep a close eye on him in the future.
Scene 3. Frosine, Harpagon.
Monsieur?
Hold on just for a second. I'll be right back. It's about time I go give my money a little once over. Make sure it's all still there.
Scene 3, La Flèche, Frosine.
This whole story is too much. He's got to have some kind of auxiliary space for all this crap. We didn't recognize a single item on the inventory we were given.
Hey, is that you, La Flèche? To what do I owe the pleasure?
Oh, it's you, Frosine. What are you doing here?
What do I do everywhere else? Being a middleman, making myself useful to people, and making the most out of what I got. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and people like me who haven't had the world handed to them have to go get, by on their own, know-how.
Are you working on a deal with the boss?
Yes, I'm handling a little bit of a business matter for him, and I'm hoping to be well compensated.
Ha! From him? In your dreams. You'd have to be pretty sneaky to get anything at all. I can tell you from experience that money doesn't come easy in this house.
There are certain services that do wonders at loosening a client up.
I'm sure you're right, but I'm afraid you don't know Monsieur Harpagon so well yet. Monsieur Harpagon is the least human of the human species. The old man is the most hard-fisted, tight-assed mortal to ever claim mortality. There's not a service on God's green earth that would make him fork over any kind of compensation. He'll compliment you, think well of you, and treat you like a friend as much as you want, but give you money? Not on his life. There's nothing more dry and phony than his compliments, and he hates giving so much that I've heard him lend thanks instead of give thanks to God.
Oh, please! As if I haven't mastered the art of domesticating men. I know how to make them open up to me, how to win over their hearts, and most of all, how to find their weak points.
That's not going to cut it. I would bet you anything that as far as money goes, you won't get a thing out of the man of the hour. He's ruthless to the core, enough to make you lose faith in humanity. You could be on your deathbed and he wouldn't budge. He loves money more than his reputation, his honor, and his virtue. The sight of someone in need is enough to give him a seizure. Asking him for money is like ripping out his eyes, stabbing him in the chest, and pulling out his guts. And if he's coming back. I better get out of here.
Harpagon, Frosine.
Oh, safe and sound. Well, I'll be damned. Is that Frosine?
My good monsieur, don't you look good? You're a real specimen.
Me?
I've never seen you look so strong, so alive.
Really?
Really? You've never in your life looked so young. I've seen 25-year-old men who look who look older than you.
And yet I'm well into my 60s.
So what? What's 60 anyway? It's nothing. You're in the prime of your life. If you haven't peaked yet.
That's true. But I'd argue that being 20 years younger wouldn't hurt.
You kidding? You don't need to be any younger. And the way you're going, I wouldn't be surprised if you lived past 100.
You really think so?
Oh, I know so. It shows in your physique. Hold still for me. Look at that. There's a sign of longevity between your eyes.
You know about that kind of thing?
But of course. Show me your hand. My God, what a lifeline.
What is it?
Don't you see this line right here?
I've never noticed it before. What does it mean?
Oh my. I had said that you would make it to 100, but this line means you'll live past 120.
Is that possible?
They'll have to put you down if they want you dead. I'm telling you, you're going to be burying your children and your children's children.
Wow. Every man's dream. Now, how's our little business venture panning out?
Do you even have to ask? When have I ever started something I didn't finish? I like to think of marriages as my specialty. There's no one on earth I can't find a match for. And if I got it into my head, I could have the Grand Turk married to the Republic of Venice. Not that your arrangement has been that difficult. As I know both women, I've been able to talk to them about you and told the mother that ever since you walked by her house and saw Marian in her window, you've had the desire to marry her.
To which she said?
She was delighted by the offer. And when I told her that you'd like her daughter to be present tonight at the signing of your owner daughter's, Your own daughter's marriage contract. She gave in without a fight and even put her daughter in my care for the time being.
You see, Frosting, I'm expected to host a dinner for Senior Ansel May tonight, and I'd be very happy if she could attend.
Idea. She's expected to visit your daughter after lunch and then go on to the fair. She could come to dinner from there.
Great! I'll lend them my carriage.
Then it's settled.
Hold on, Frosting. Have you talked to the mother about the kind of dowry she might be able to give her daughter? Have you told her that she's going to have to help her along a little bit to, get something together for the occasion? Look, I'm sorry, but I don't make the rules. You don't marry a girl who doesn't bring something along with her, if you know what I mean.
Calm down. This young lady will bring you $12,000 a year.
$12,000 a year?
You heard me. First of all, she's been brought up on a very thrifty diet. We're talking about a girl fed on salad, milk, apples, things that you hardly need to lay out an expensive table for. None of the expensive soups and artisanal wines that other women might insist on. And that's going to count. You could save as much as 3 francs a year. And her taste in clothing is just as modest. She isn't interested in the expensive dresses or ornate jewelry. And she doesn't care about fine furniture either, the way so many girls like her do. That should save you another 4,000 livres a year. She doesn't like to gamble, which means you dodge another real bullet. I know a woman in my neighborhood who lost 20,000 francs at cards. But let's be conservative and assume you'll only save a fourth of that. That's 5,000 a year from cards plus 4,000 from clothing and jewelry makes 9,000. Add in the 1,000 extras we estimated for food, and that makes 12,000 for you, doesn't it?
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but it still doesn't add up to much.
Excuse me? You mean to say that when a woman brings you a cheap diet, a love of simplicity, and a hatred for gambling, that doesn't add up to much?
Hey, call me a bad guy, but I'm not going to let this girl take advantage of me. We can't pretend like the money she's going to save me can be called a dowry. If I don't get my hands on some actual coin in this dog and pony show, the deal's off.
My God, man, you'll get plenty. They told me they have some overseas accounts, so that will come to you as well.
Well, let's get someone to look into that. There's one thing I'm worried about, Frosting. This girl is young, and young people tend to go in for other young people. I'm worried that as a man of my age, it might not be up to her standards and that certain domestic complications might come up that wouldn't be to my liking.
But you don't know her at all. That's another particularity I've been meaning to mention. She hates boys and only has a thing for older men.
Really? She does?
Yes. Her. I wish you had heard her talk. She can't even look at young men. She's never happier than when she sees a handsome older gentleman and full beard. The oldest men are the most charming for her, and I am telling you, you shouldn't pretend to be younger than you are. She's looking for a man at the very least in his 60s. In fact, she even broke off an engagement a few months ago because she found out that her fiance was only 56 and didn't even need glasses to sign the marriage contract.
Just because she does that.
Yes. She says that she can't be happy without someone over 56, and their nose better have a pair of glasses on it.
Well, that's all news to me.
You don't know how deep this thing goes. Her bedroom is decorated with a few paintings and prints, but what do you think they're of? Adonis, Cephalus, Paris, or Apollo? Not on your life. Instead, she sleeps under charming portraits of Saturn, old King Priam, Elder Nestor, and Father Anchises, and on his son's back.
What a I would have never guessed. It definitely takes a load off to know that I'm her type. To tell the truth, if I was a young woman, I don't think I'd like young guys either.
I couldn't agree more. Young men are hardly worth falling in love with. At the end of the day, they're just insubstantial, self-obsessed pretty boys, and I'd love to understand how anyone could see anything in them.
I just don't get it. I can't begin to understand how women find them even the least bit attractive.
These girls have to have lost their minds to find young men appealing. Do they have any common sense? Those little boys aren't men. How can anyone be turned on by that?
That's what I'm saying, with the squeaky little voices and the patchy beards. And how about those showy wigs with the baggy pants and the stupid jackets blowing in the wind?
I think we can agree that they're nothing compared to you. Now, there's a real man, someone worth looking at, who dresses the part too.
You think I'm good looking?
Are you kidding? You're to die for, with a body that looks like a Greek sculpture. Give us a twirl. Ooh, God, you couldn't be better. Walk around for me. That straight back, strong but relaxed, your physique is flawless.
I guess you're right. Not a thing out of place. Yeah, nothing big at least. Well, as long as you don't count this weird hacking cough from time to time.
I don't. The cough suits you. In fact, you cough very gracefully.
Now, let me ask you this. Has Marian ever seen me before? She's never, say, noticed me walking down the street?
No, but we've talked about you quite a lot. I've described you in such detail that she probably feels like she knows you. And I haven't forgot to mention what a wonderful man you are and what a godsend it will be to marry you.
Thank you very much. You're being good.
I do have, Monsieur, a small favor to ask of you. I'm in the middle of a legal process that I'm about to lose, and only because I don't have enough money. You could easily help me win if you were only willing to give some help. You can't imagine how excited she's going to be to meet you. Oh, she won't be able to get enough. That classic beauty of yours is going to have quite the effect. But most of all, she will be charmed by that old-fashioned, or rather timeless style of yours. The way your suspenders hold your pants up, she'll go crazy for it. A lover like that is a real breath of fresh air.
I'm very happy to hear that.
It's just to tell you the truth, Monsieur, this lawsuit is really important for me. If I lose, I'm ruined, and just a little bit of assistance would go a long way in setting me straight again. I wish you seen how enthralled she was when I told her about you. Her eyes were practically shining with joy when she heard all about your fine qualities, and you could see it in her eyes. She can't wait to close the deal on this marriage.
You made me a very happy man, Proceed, and I admit that I owe you one.
Then, please, sir, if you could only help me with that tiny favor I'm asking of you. It would put me back on my feet. I wouldn't know how to repay you.
Okay, well, I'll see you later. I have some business to attend to.
Oh, I'm telling you, monsieur, I've never been so in need of help in my life.
I'll have the carriage set up to take you to the fair.
I wouldn't ask you if you weren't the only option I had left.
And I'll make sure that dinner is early so you don't upset your stomach.
Don't turn me down. You couldn't imagine, mister, how grateful I
got a split. There's someone calling me. I'll see you when I see you.
I hope you drop dead, you old hack. That son of a bitch wriggled out of every one of my requests. But it's not over. I can always fall back on working for the opposition. I'm sure they'll compensate me quite well.
Yes, yes, beautiful. We're gonna take our 5-minute break here. It's 8:25. We'll come back at 8:30, do a little check-in with each other, and then dive through to the second half. Incredible. Please list your favorite parts, top moments in our chat. And when we come back, refill, use the restroom. I cannot wait to see what happens next. All I know is that they're going to start a GoFundMe for Frozine, I see. So thank you all. We'll be back at 8:30. See ya in a moment. All right, you can stay. All right, it's 8:30. If you can hear my voice, come on back, or don't. You can still listen to us from afar. Uh, amazing, amazing. So for those who have joined late, Sunday Script Circle is a monthly script reading that we do. It's always a new script. It's always something that I haven't read yet, and a lot of times it's a cold read because it's really not about doing a full production that's fully produced. It's literally about experiencing words for the first time out loud. So that's what we're doing here. We've got a second half of the play, and then at the end, we are going to do a little question and answer, a little feedback session with Colin, our dramaturg, as well as Nick, who is our playwright for this evening. I always tend to open it up halfway through. Normally, we all pop back on, but there's like 70 people, so I won't have you all join us. But if anyone wants to write in the chat, just things that stand out to you after hearing the first two acts. I saw, or maybe favorite moment, favorite character, any sort of themes that stand out to you. I'll read them out loud right now really quickly. We won't make a long thing of it. If anyone has anything, I see someone wrote, actors are my favorite part. Kudos to my actors. You guys are amazing. Andy, that's you too.
Hey, thanks. While people are typing, I'll throw in one of the things that stood out to me. Whenever Colin was talking about, the physical comedy of all of this, that's all in there for sure. But there's also a lot of verbal comedy that really stands out too, particularly the moments where Harpagon and Cleant are talking, and you don't know that Harpagon's about to say, "And I'm going to marry her," where you got to follow the thread of that a little bit is pretty hilarious. And then that last scene with Frosine kind of doing the, can I have a favor? Oh, she's gonna love you so much. Just the kind of back and forth with the verbal play too. It's hilarious and great.
So good. Stephanie gave us, I was vaguely aware of this plot, but not really. Have really loved this reading. Love the word sparring. Yes. Acting is outstanding. Very well cast. Kudos. These are just good people volunteering their time. We love them. And these are majority Kansas City-based actors. So support actors, support theater, even when it's not going on, when it's going on, going on the internet. Yes. I'll say, I just love the plot. Frosine, obviously, is clearly a standout because in these, you don't often get a funny lady unless she's a lover. And Frosine is not a lover. She's awesome. I see enjoying the modernized translation. Good job, Nick. Yeah, Nick. Awesome. We'll give one more moment for some feedback and then we'll jump on in. Something fun about Script Circle is it's usually first come, first serve when we do these things. So male identifying people can play women, women identifying can play male, we can do young, old, we switch it up. There's no typical casting or doing ideal casting usually. A lot of times it's a surprise. Nick says, thank you. Nick needs to make a spinoff for Frosine. Love it. I will say that just like we do in normal Script Circle, we do some casting. And a lot of times you don't know what you're going to see. I cast myself and I just realized I have no lines. It's going to be great. All right. I think it's time to, nice work to you all. Great. Keep typing in the chat. It's kind of a fun way to just have feedback, to pick out little moments that really laugh at you. I'm sure it's helping Nick. He's in there too. Or if you just want to sit back, relax, and listen to the play, that's great too. Thank you so much for everybody being here. Let's get to the second half, yeah? We'll head in. All my actors. Ryan, if you want to take us in, and our actors will pop back on.
And we're back. Act 3. Scene 1, Harpagon, Cleant, Elise, Valère, Dame Claude, Maître Jacques, Bryn Vion, La Merluche.
All right. Everyone. I'm going to give out orders right now so that everyone knows what their job is. Dame Claude, you're up. That's great. Good to see you're packing. I want you cleaning this place floor to ceiling, make it spotless, but make sure not to scrub the furniture too hard. We don't want it getting worn in. Okay, then I'm going to have to change it up in Act 2. For dinner, you're on bottle duty. Eyes on the prize, though. You drop a bottle, it comes out of your paycheck. You lose a bottle, it comes out of your paycheck. We clear?
That's quite the policy.
Now, get out of here. You, Brenda Voyne, and you, La Morlouche. I'm putting you in charge of washing the glasses and pouring the wine, but only when they're actually thirsty. I won't have any of the nonsense you see when some servants are always bothering the table, suggesting that you drink when they haven't even thought of it in the first place. I don't want anyone served until they've had to ask more than once. And remember to water it down.
Quite right. Pure wine without water goes straight to one's head.
So, should we take our aprons off, boss?
Yeah, once people start showing up, but make sure not to get too dirty. Closer.
Oh, boss, you know my jacket's got this big streak of oil down the side.
Yeah, boss, and what about my pants? They're torn right in the crotch, so if I don't have someone standing in just the right place to block the view, they'll see my,
Hey, that's enough feedback. You stand against the wall and make sure you're always facing the guests. And you hold your hat like this when you're serving. As for you, Elise, keep your eyes glued to the plates when they're being cleared and make sure nothing gets wasted. It's a good job for a dog. But for now, get ready to meet my fiancée, who you're going to take to the fair. You got all that?
Yes, Father.
And you, Your Excellency, I will find it in my heart to forgive you as long as you aren't moping around when she shows up.
Me? Moping? Why would I ever do that?
Okay. You know how it is. Father gets remarried. Kids get a whole complex about it and never warm up to their stepmother. But if you want me to forget about your little indiscretion, I would highly recommend that you put on a good face and give a warm welcome to the young lady in question.
To tell you the truth, Father, I can't promise you to be at ease in front of my stepmother. I would be lying if I told you I could. But as far as putting on a smile and being as welcoming as I can, I'll obey you to the letter.
Well, make sure that you do.
As far as that goes, you'll have nothing to complain about.
I would hope so. Okay, help me out with this. Okay, Maitre Jacques, get over here. I've saved the best for last.
Are you talking to me as your driver, monsieur, or your cook? Because I'm both.
I'm addressing you in the two capacities.
But which one first?
The cook.
Just a moment.
He removes his driver's coat to reveal underneath he is dressed as a cook.
What the hell are you doing?
You can go ahead. I'm ready.
I've decided, Maitre Jacques, to throw a party tonight.
I never thought you'd do it.
Now, tell me, can you put together a good spread?
Of course, as long as you give me a good amount of money to work with.
Jeez, it's always a question of money. It's like there's nothing else to say. Money, money, money. Christ. Nothing else on anyone's mind. It always comes back to money. I remember their own names without money.
I've never heard such an insolent response in my life. Anyone can put together a good dinner with lots of money. It's the easiest thing in the world. A real master, a real genius, is the cook who can make a beautiful dinner with no money at all.
A good dinner with no money.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Seward. Please share your secret with us. Tell me how to do my job. In fact, why don't you just take over since you know how to do everything?
That's enough. Now, what do we need for the meal?
Oh, don't ask me, Monsieur Stewart here. He can make a beautiful dinner with no money at all, Monsieur Stewart.
Hey, answer me.
How many will you be?
We should be between 8 and 10, but you should only prepare for 8. Food for 8 is always enough for 10.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, for that number, we'll need 4 different soups and 5 plates. Then entrees, purees.
Jesus, that's enough to feed the whole town.
At least 5 rotisserie.
You want them to eat me out of house and home?
Followed by...
There's more?
Are you trying to make everyone sick? Has Monsieur invited his guests to murder them by force feeding? Why don't you go and read a medical journal or two and maybe consult with a few doctors so that you might learn how dangerous it is to eat excessively?
He's right.
Maitre Jacques, what people like you don't understand is that it's a death trap to weigh down the table with too much meat. The real way to welcome guests is with a sparse table. In the words of the great philosopher, one must eat to live, not live to eat.
I could kiss you. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's the greatest sentence I've ever heard in my life. One must live to eat and not eat to... No, that wasn't it. Oh, what is it that you said?
That one must eat to live, not live to eat.
That's it. You hear that? Which philosopher said that?
I can't seem to recall his name right now.
Make sure to find out and tell me. I'm going to have that inscribed on my mantelpiece in gold.
I won't forget. And why don't you let me organize the dinner? I'll make sure to take care of it.
Have at it.
Even better. That's one less job for me.
There have to be plates that they can't eat much of, and that fill up right away. Green beans fried in oil, and mutton stew cooked in fat.
You can count on me.
Now, Maitre Jacques, I'm going to need you to clean my carriage.
Excuse me, that seems to be more of a question for your driver. Just a moment. You were saying?
I'm going to need you to clean my carriage and make sure that my horses are ready to take to the fair.
You're the horses, monsieur. God, they can hardly walk. It would be wrong to say that they can't even get off their straw because they don't have any. You give them so little food, and they look like skeletons, like horse ghosts. Woo!
Come on, they're faking it. They never do anything.
And just because they do nothing, monsieur, do they have to eat nothing? Those poor animals would be much better if they worked often and ate often. It breaks my heart to see them so tired out. I love the horses, and I suffer with them when I see them suffering. Most days I go with less to make sure they get fed at all. You'd have to have a heart of stone not to at least feed some pity for your fellow creatures.
Well, I'm not asking for that much from them, just to go to the fair.
No, monsieur. I don't have the heart to take them. I can't whip them along in the state that they're in. How do you expect them to pull a carriage when they can hardly support their own weight?
Sure, I'll ask your neighbor, Le Picard, to take them. We'll need his help with the dinner as well.
Fine. I'd rather they die by someone else's hand than by mine.
Maitre Jacques sure likes to argue.
And Monsieur Steward loves to make himself useful. Monsieur, Monsieur, I can't stand flatterers, and that's clear as day that that's what he's doing. And when he checks up on the bread and the wine, the wood, the salt, and the candles, he's simply trying to make himself look better. It makes me furious, and it hurts me every time I hear what's said of you, because at the end of the day, I have to spot for you, sir. After my horses, you're the one I appreciate the most around here.
Can you let me in on exactly what they say about me, Maitre Jacques?
Yes, monsieur, if I didn't think it would only make you angry.
Me angry? No.
I'm sorry, but I know you'll be furious.
Not at all. In fact, it would delight me to know how people talk about me.
Monsieur, because you insist, I'll tell you frankly that everyone makes fun of you. That we get hit from all sides with jokes about your personality. People are never as happy as when they're laying into you and telling stories about what an ass you are. One guy said you had special calendars printed with twice as many fast days and vigils, so you'd have more days when you didn't have to feed your staff. Another said that you always make sure to get into an argument with your valets before they take days off or leave your service so that you don't have to give them anything. A woman gave a first-hand account of how you took great legal action against the neighbor's cat for having picked at a mutton bone you left outside. Someone else told me about how you tried to sneak into your stables to steal your own horse's oats, and how your driver, the one before me, beat you to a pulp in the dark, though you've never mentioned it. What do you want me to tell you? We can't go outside without hearing you get raked across the coals. You're the butt of every joke. Everyone loves laughing at your expense, and your name is never mentioned without someone calling you a miser, a hoarder, a cheapskate, or a tightwad.
And you're a buffoon, a rat, and an insolent prick.
Didn't I tell you? I knew this would happen, that you would get mad as soon as I told you the truth.
I'll teach you to shut up.
Scene 2, Maitre Jacques Valère.
From what I can see, Maitre Jacques, your honesty hasn't exactly been rewarded.
Stay out of this. You think you're so damn important. But you've been working here for all of 2 seconds. Save your jokes for when you're the one getting beat.
Monsieur Maitre Jacques, please don't get angry.
He's backing down. I'll keep pushing him and see if he's dumb enough to get scared. What's so funny? Do I seem like a joke to you? Do I look like I'm laughing? How about I knock your teeth and see how funny it looks?
Hey, calm down.
And what if I don't want to calm down?
God's sake.
I'll teach you to have some respect.
Monsieur Maitre Jacques.
Don't you, Monsieur Maitre Jacques? Me? If I had a stick, I'd beat you to a pulp.
A stick? What do you mean a stick?
I didn't mean...
Listen, big shot. If anyone's going to be doing the beating, it's going to be me.
I don't doubt it.
It seems like you forgot that you're nothing but the cook.
I know.
And that you don't know a thing about me.
Excuse me.
So you're going to beat me with a stick, are you?
I was only joking.
Well, I don't like your jokes.
Valère hits him.
Now remember, you're not a funny guy.
God damn sincerity. What a stupid decision. From now on, I'm never telling the truth again. I can take it from my boss. He has the right to beat me, but this steward won't have the last line.
Scene 3, Frosine, Marian, Maitre Jacques.
Maitre Jacques, do you know if your master is at home?
Oh, he's in all right. I'm sure of it.
Please let him know that we've arrived.
Scene 4, Marian, Frosine.
Oh, Frosine, I don't know if this is a good idea. To be honest, I'm dreading this meeting.
But why? What do you have to worry about?
Are you kidding? How can a woman not worry about the horrible fate she's being forced into?
Oh, I know that Harpagon isn't exactly the choice one would make if one wanted to die happy. But I can tell you haven't forgotten about your young man that you told me about.
I'll admit that his visits made quite an impression on me.
Did you get his name?
No, I still don't know who he is, but I know he's the kind of man I could fall in love with, that I'd take him over anyone else, and that he makes the man I'm supposed to be marrying tonight even more revolting by comparison.
Oh, please. Boys like him look fine and seem all right at first, but most aren't worth a cent. And it's better to have an old husband who can provide you with something. I'll admit that marriage might not be as pleasant and that there are ugly realities with an older husband, but it will last. After he's dead, you'll be in great shape to choose someone better.
My God, Frosine. Doesn't it seem twisted that my happiness would depend on my husband's death? And it's not like I can count on him passing right away.
Are you kidding? You're marrying under the condition that he leaves you a widow almost immediately. In fact, that should really be written into the marriage contract. It would be so distasteful of him to not die within 3 months. Oh, but here comes the man of the hour.
Oh, Frosine, what a face.
Scene 5, Harpagon, Frosine, Marian.
Hey, gorgeous. I didn't want to make a fuss about me showing up in my glasses. I know you're so pretty, a blind man could tell. But, you know, what are glasses but tiny telescopes? And what are telescopes for but seeing the stars? What are you but a heavenly body? Yeah, that's it. You're like a star, the hottest star of them all. Top notch. Supposing she's not saying anything. It almost looks like she's isn't excited to see me.
Oh, she's just starstruck. And you know how it is with these young women. They're always embarrassed to at first to share what they really feel.
I'm sure you're right. All right, beautiful. There's my daughter, here to welcome you.
Scene 6, Elise, Harpagon, Marianne, Frosine.
I'm sorry. It has taken me so long to introduce myself, madame.
Not at all, madame. You did exactly what I would have done. I should have been here to greet you.
Take a look at how big she is, but you can't stop them from growing, am I right?
What a horrible man.
What did she say?
That she finds you charming.
You're too good to me, honey.
What a pig.
You're really too much.
I can't stand this anymore.
Look who showed up. My son is here to meet you as well.
Oh, Frosine, this can't be happening. He's the one I was talking to you about.
Wonders never cease.
I know what you're thinking. He has grown-up children. Don't worry. We were just talking about their futures, and they shouldn't be with us for too long.
Oh,
Scene 7, Cleante, Harpagon, Elise, Marianne, Frosine.
Madam, to tell you the truth, I never expected this to happen, and there's nothing my father could have done to surprise me more.
I could say the same. Our meeting here by chance surprises me just as much, and I can't say I was prepared for it.
It's true, madame, that my father couldn't have made a better choice, and that it's a true pleasure to meet you. Nonetheless, I can't exactly say that I'm overjoyed at the idea of you becoming my stepmother. Honestly, the idea is a little too much for me, and it's a role I would rather you not play. Some might think I'm being cruel, but I'm convinced you understand me, and that you could imagine why I'm so opposed. You must understand why your union is against my interests. Frankly, if it was up to me, this marriage would never happen.
Sure, that's the way to greet her.
And in response, allow me to say that I feel the same way. And if it horrifies you to imagine me as your stepmother, I'm no less horrified by the idea of you as my stepson. Don't think for a second that I'm the one who's trying to put this on you. I would hate to make you unhappy, and if I wasn't being forced by circumstances out of my control, I swear that I wouldn't agree to this marriage either.
No, she's right. A garbage speech deserves a garbage response. Look, sweetheart, I'm sorry about my son. He's just an idiot kid who still doesn't know what he's saying half the time.
Believe me, nothing he said offended me. In fact, it made me happy to hear how he really felt. His honesty meant a lot to me, and I would have respect him less if he had said otherwise.
It's very big of you to excuse him like that. Time will change him, I hope, and you'll see that his feelings will be different.
No, father, my feelings won't change, and I hope that madame believes me.
Oh, and he's not finished yet. You just don't know when to quit, do you?
Do you want me to lie about how I feel?
You got more to say? I think it's about time you changed your tune.
Oh, yeah. You'd like me to take a different angle? Fine. Madame, imagine that I was in my father's place, and let me admit that there is no one as charming as you on earth, that nothing would be nothing better than to see you happy, and that to be your husband would be a greater fate than to suddenly find myself a prince. Yes, madame, in my opinion, your kindness is greater than any fortune. It's where I put all my hope, and there is nothing that will make me stop fighting for it, even the most.
Come on, get a grip.
I'm only complimenting madame here.
My God, I've got my own mouth. I don't need you as a stand-in. Here, go get the chair. Go get some chairs.
No, it would be best if we went straight to the fair. That way we can get back earlier and we'll have plenty of time to enjoy your company.
Let's get the horses ready then. You'll have to excuse me for not offering you any refreshments, my dear.
I took care of that, father. I had a grate of oranges, fresh lemon, and cured meats delivered, which I told them to charge to you.
Blair?
He's lost his mind.
I'm sorry, father. Do you think it's not enough? Madame will have to excuse us.
You shouldn't have.
Madame, have you ever seen a diamond as big as the one on my father's hand?
Oh, it has quite a shine.
You have to see it up close.
It's very beautiful. The way the light catches it.
No, madame, please. It looks too good on you. It's a gift from my father.
Way.
Isn't it true, Father, that you want Madame here to keep it as a token of your love?
What are you thinking?
What a question coming from him. He told me that he insists you keep it.
Oh, I really
Oh,
don't know.
insult him. Imagine how ridiculous it would be if he took it back.
I can't take this.
It would be...
I'm telling you, you would be offending him.
Please.
Absolutely not.
I can't.
It would be a scandal if you refused.
You backstabber.
Look how upset you're making him.
I swear to God.
Father, it's not my fault. I'm doing everything I can to make her keep it, but you won't listen.
Sneaky.
Don't make me and my father fight, Madame.
Little shit.
You're going to make him sick. Please, Madame, accept this offer.
Good God, accept the ring already.
To avoid making you angry, I'll hold on to the ring for now and give it back to you some other time.
Scene 8. Harpagon, Marian, Frosine, Cleante, Bryn, Vion, Elise.
Hey, boss, there's this guy here that says he wants to talk to you.
Tell him that I'm busy and that he should come back another time.
He says he's got money for you.
Oh, excuse me. I'll be right back.
Scene 9. Harpagon, Marian, Cleante, Elise, Frosine, La Merluche.
Do we have a Deanna? Deanna.
Boss.
I'm done for.
What is it, Father? Are you hurt?
This traitor must have been paid off by people who owe me money to break my neck.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
I'm real sorry, boss. I thought I was just doing the right thing by running over here.
What are you doing here, you sadist?
To tell you that 2 of your horses broke their shoes.
Send them straight to the smith.
While we're waiting, Father, I'll take Madame to the garden for some refreshment.
Moliere, go to the garden with them and keep an eye on what's served so that we can send the rest back to the caterers.
Say no more.
The son of mine wants to ruin me.
Act 4. Scene 1. Cleante, Marian, Elise, Frosine, returning from the garden.
Let's go back this way. We'll be better inside. There's no one to overhear us, so we can speak more freely.
Yes, madame. My brother has told me about his feelings for you. I understand how painful a situation like this can be, and let me assure you that I'm completely on your side.
Definitely a comfort to know your support in times of trouble, madame.
What were you 2 thinking, not telling me what was going on? I could have saved you a lot of trouble. If I had known, I would have never let it come to this.
What could you have done? It's just my luck, things ending up the way they have. But Marianne, have you decided what you'll do?
Oh, do I even have the power to make a decision right now? It seems like my fate is in everyone else's hands, and all I can do is hope for the best.
Is hoping for the best the only encouragement you can give me? No support? No help?
What do you want me to say? Put yourself in my place and tell me what I could possibly do. Seriously, tell me how I should respond. I know you'll tell me to do what's right.
But that's the problem. There's no room to do what's right anymore. This marriage has us backed into a corner.
Then what could you expect of me? Even setting aside all of the expectations put on me as a woman, I have my mother to think about. She raised me with the most sincere kindness, and I can't disappoint her. Go and talk to her. Say anything you can think of to win her over. And if it comes down to my preference, I'll be more than happy to tell her how I feel about you.
Frosine, please, will you help us?
Do you even have to ask? There's nothing I'd like more. Deep down, I'm actually quite a romantic, you know. I hardly have a heart of stone. I actually take a personal interest in helping couples out when I can tell they're actually in love. But what can I do?
You have to come up with something.
Tell us what you think.
Come up with some kind of pretext to undo what you've done.
That's going to be difficult. As far as your mother goes, she's a reasonable person, and we might be able to win her over and transfer the dowry from father to son. What will pose more of a problem is your father. Your father is being that your father is, well, your father.
That goes without saying.
What I mean is that he'll get angry if he has the impression that he's being refused, and then there would be no hope of him agreeing to let you two get married. If we want this to work, we need him to be the one to call it off. And for that to happen, we'll have to make him hate you, Marianne.
You're right.
Yes, of course I'm right. That's what we'll have to do. The trick is just to find the means. Oh, wait a minute. If we came up with some older woman with a few of my tricks up her sleeve and a few servants, we could make her up to be some kind of heiress, a countess from Brittany, for example. And I could convince your father that she was rich and she had 100,000 crowns and she was so in love with him that she would be willing to sign over all her property just to marry him on the spot. I'm sure he'd agree to it because even though he likes you, he likes money more. Once he's fallen for it and agreed to everything you want, it won't matter when he looks into the Countess's money.
That's brilliant.
Let me take care of it. I just thought of a friend who will do perfectly.
Frozen, if you pull this off, we'll never be able to thank you enough. But Marian, let's start by winning over your mother. It would be a good first step in stopping this marriage. Do everything a daughter can to get her mother on her side.
I promise you. I'll try everything.
Scene 2. Harpagon, Cleante, Marian, Elise, Frosine.
It looks like my son is kissing his future stepmother's hand, and his future stepmother doesn't seem to hate it. There's something I'm not getting here.
Here comes our father.
The carriage is all set up. You two can leave whenever you're ready.
Since you aren't going, Father, I think I'll go with him.
No, stay here. They'll be fun around. I need your help with something.
Scene 3. Harpagon, Cleante.
All right. Besides the stepmother thing, what do you think of her?
What do I think of her?
Yeah, her looks, her brains, her personality.
She's all right.
That's it?
Look, Father, to be honest, I didn't find everything I expected in her. She's all over the place. She doesn't seem to have any taste, her looks are mediocre at best, and her personality is unbelievably lacking. I don't think I'm trying to turn you off her. As far as stepmothers go, I guess it doesn't really make a difference.
But before you said...
I gave her a few compliments, but that was just to make you happy.
So you couldn't even imagine being interested in her yourself?
Me? Not in a million years.
That's too bad. That takes my idea off the table. When I saw her here, I started thinking about my age, and I realized what people might say if I married a girl so young. That thought made me scrap the whole plan. But since you already have my hands tied with this contract, I was thinking you could have her, but now you're saying you didn't like her.
That I could have her?
Yeah, you.
To marry?
Listen, it's true that she's not really to marry.
Listen, it's true that she's not really my type, but if it made you happy, I would be more than willing to marry her, if that's what you want.
What I want. Hey, I'm a reasonable guy. Can you imagine me making you do something you didn't want to do?
No, of course not. I'm just saying that I would be happy to do it if it's what you wanted.
No, forget about it. There's no point in marriage if the feelings aren't there.
Father, the feelings can always come later. They say that love often comes after marriage.
No, when it comes to the man, you just can't take those kinds of risks. If you had only felt something, I would have had you marry her right away in my place, but since you don't, I guess we'll stick with the first plan, the me marrying her scenario.
Father, since that's the way it is, it's time I tell you how I really feel and reveal our secret. The truth is that I love her. That I've loved her since I saw her out walking one day, that I was planning on asking for your permission to marry her, and that the only thing that's held me back was your announcement, which made me worry I'd offend you.
Have you already visited her?
Yes, Father.
Often?
As often as I could in the time that I had.
And you were well received?
Very well, though they never knew who I was, which was why Marian was so surprised to see me earlier.
You told her about your feelings and that you want to marry her?
Yes, and I even brought it up with her mother.
And her mother heard you out?
Yes, she was very understanding.
And Marianne feels the same way about you?
It's hard for me to believe, Father, but yes, it seems like she doesn't hate me.
No. I feel much better knowing your secret. All right, son, here's what I'm thinking. I'm just going to need you to forget about your feelings, if that works at your end. So you'll just need to stop harassing the woman I have every intention of marrying and stick it out with the bride I chose for you. How's that for a deal?
So you've just been stringing me along this whole time? Well, if that's the way you want to play, let me tell you that I'm never going to stop loving Marianne, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep you from marrying her. You might have her mother on your side for now, but I have plenty of others on my side.
What did you say? You really think you're going to step on me?
You're the one over the line. I loved her first.
Don't you have any respect for your own father?
This is not the situation where children are expected to defer to their parents. You can't just buy love.
I'll buy what I want. I own you.
Your threats don't mean a thing.
You're going to forget about Marianne.
Not a chance.
I swear to God, I'll rearrange your face.
Scene 4. Maître Jacques, Harpagon, Cléante.
Gentlemen, what's going on?
I can't take this anymore.
Monsieur, calm down.
How dare you talk to me like that?
For God's sake, monsieur!
Don't think I'll just roll over for him.
For who? Your father?
Let me at him.
At who? Your son? Wait, you don't mean me, do you?
I want you to be judge of this, Maître Jacques. Just to prove how right I am.
Fine, just back off each other first.
I am in love with a woman, and I want to marry her. And this barbarian has the audacity to love her too, and to go after her in spite of me.
Ah, he must be wrong.
Isn't it appalling? A son that's willing to compete with his father? Shouldn't he let her have her? Shouldn't he let me have her out of respect?
You're right. Stay here and let me talk to him.
If he wants you to judge, that's fine. I'll be happy to make my case to you, Maître Jacques.
It's an honor.
I fell deeply in love with a young woman who feels the same about me, and we want nothing more than to be married. And then my father comes along and screws the whole thing up by deciding he should be the one to marry her.
He's definitely in the wrong then.
Shouldn't he be ashamed, trying to marry a young girl at his age? Is it right for him to go around chasing women? Shouldn't he leave young people to themselves?
You're right. He's just getting in your way. Let me go talk to him. Here's the verdict. Your son isn't as crazy as you say, and I think he's ready to hear you out. He says he's willing to give you the respect you deserve, that he just got carried away in the heat of the argument, and that he'll accept whatever you think is right, provided you let him marry someone he's happy with.
All right, then. Well, tell him, Maître Jacques, that we've got a deal. He can marry anyone he wants, as long as it isn't Marianne.
I'll tell him. I think we're ironing this out. Your father isn't as unreasonable as you made him out to be. He told me that he only lost his temper because you were so angry, that he really only took issue with how rude you were, and that he's happy to let you do what you want, provided you give him the respect that a father deserves.
Oh, Maître Jacques, you can assure him that as long as he lets me marry Marianne, I will be the most generous, loyal son in the world. I'll never do anything against his wishes again.
It's done. He's agreed to your terms.
Fantastic.
We've come to an agreement. He'll take your word for it.
I can't believe it.
Messieurs, all you have to do is talk with one another. Now you're on exactly the same page. The fight was nothing but a misunderstanding.
My dear Maître Jacques, how can I ever thank you enough?
It was nothing, monsieur.
You've made my day, Maître Jacques, and that deserves a reward.
He takes his handkerchief out of his pocket, making Maître Jacques think that he is about to give him something.
Get out of here. Not right away, but eventually.
Thank you, monsieur.
Scene 5. Cléante, Harpagon.
Please, forgive me for my behavior, Father.
Oh, it's nothing.
I want you to know, I really regret it.
I'm just glad to hear you talking like this now.
God, it's so kind of you to forgive me so easily.
It's the easiest thing in the world to forgive your son when he starts to be reasonable.
Really? I mean, you really aren't mad about how unfair I was being?
That's not my. There's not much choice when you're being such a stand-up guy.
I swear to you that I'll remember your kindness until my dying day.
And I swear to you, from now on, there's nothing I won't give you.
What more could you give me now that I'm marrying Marianne?
What?
Oh, I just meant that by letting me marry Marianne, you've given me all I could ever ask for.
Who said you're marrying Marianne?
You did, Father.
Me?
Without a doubt.
What do you mean? It was you who promised to never see her again.
Me? To never see her again?
Yeah.
Not at all.
So you're saying you're not giving her up?
No, I'm more set on marrying her than ever.
You mean you're starting this up again?
Nothing could change my mind.
I'm coming for you, you son of a bitch.
Do whatever you want.
I don't want to ever see you again.
About time.
I'm disown you.
Disown me.
You are no longer my son.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm writing you out of my will.
Sounds about right.
Consider yourself cursed.
Keep your curses to yourself, old man.
Scene 5. La Flèche, Cléante.
Ah, monsieur, thank God I found you. Come with me, quick.
What is it?
Follow me, I'm telling you. We've got it in the bag.
What's going on?
I've got all the answers to your problems right here.
What are you talking about?
I'm telling you, I had my eye on it all day.
What is that?
It's your father's money. I just lifted it.
How'd you pull it off?
I'll tell you everything. Let's get out of here. I hear him coming.
Scene 7. Harpagon.
Thief! Thief! Assassin! Murderer! Justice! God! Oh, I'm screwed. I'm done for. They've bled me dry. They've taken my money. Who could have done it? What's he up to now? Where is he? Where is he hiding? How am I going to find him? Which way should I go or not go? Is he over there? Is he over here? Who could it be? Who is that? Stop! Give me back my money, you sick... Oh, it's me. Jesus, I'm losing it. I'm forgetting where I am. Who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, God, my poor money, my poor, dear old money. You were my best friend, and now they're taking you from me. And I've lost my support, my shoulder to cry on. I've lost my joy. It's all over for me. There's nothing left in this world without you. I don't think I can live anymore. This is the end. I'm dying, or I'm dead already. I'm buried and gone. Is there anyone in the world who can help me? Who can bring me back to life and put me back in the arms of my sweet, sweet cash? Or at least who can tell me who took it? Wait, what did you say? Oh, there's no one there. Whoever it was, they must have had their eye on me for a while and waited for the right moment when I was talking to that former son of mine. I gotta move on this. I get the police over here and have everyone in the house questioned. Servants, drivers, my son, my daughter, and me as well. This house is full of rats. Not a single one that doesn't seem suspicious. Any of them could be the thief. Hey, what are you talking about over there? Huh? Another guy who did the job? What's that noise upstairs? Is that the thief? For God's sake, if any of you know anything, I'd kill to find out. Is he hiding among you? They're all looking at me. They're all laughing at me. I can see it in their eyes. They're all accomplices. I'm going to need officers, detectives, judges, archers, executioners, martial law. God damn it! I'll hang every last one of them. And if I don't get my money back, I'll hang myself too.
Act 4. Scene 1. Harpagon, the chief of police, his clerk.
Let me handle this. I know what I'm doing. This isn't my first run-in with burglars, and it won't be the last time I've caught one. I'd be a rich man if I had a franc for every thief I've had hung.
Every officer in town better be working on this case. If they don't find my money, I'll sue them too.
We'll have to follow proper protocol. How much did you say was in the lockbox?
Exactly 10,000 écus.
10,000 écus?
10,000 écus.
That's a considerable theft. I don't know.
We got a little pause, Walter. You're frozen for us, but I think you'll come back. I believe in you. Oh, I see his face moving. We're doing it, everyone. We're on Zoom. Do you want to go from you've got that right? No punishment?
You got that right. No punishment could be too big for this crime. If this goes unpunished, nothing. No one will be safe.
What denominations was the money in?
In golden louis and full-weight pistolas.
Do you have any suspicions of who might have committed the crime?
Everyone. I want you to arrest the whole city and the suburbs too.
In my professional opinion, you're not going to get anywhere if you start alarming everyone. Much better to slowly collect the evidence, build a case, and recover the money that has been stolen from you.
Scene 2. Maitre Jacques Harpagon, the chief of police, his clerk.
I'll be right back. Slit his throat, singe his feet, and drop him into boiling water. When I return, I want him hanging from the rafters.
Who? You mean the one who stole from me?
No, I'm talking about that pig that your steward just bought me. I'm having him prepare for you according to my secret recipe.
I don't care. You need to talk to this gentleman about something much more important.
No need for alarm. I'm just here to ask you some questions. We can do this very easily.
Monsieur will be attending the dinner?
In a situation like this, my dear man, you can't keep anything from your employer.
Of course, monsieur. I'll be happy to show you all of my preferred techniques. I assure you, you'll be quite pleased with my work.
That's not what we're talking about.
If it doesn't seem as luxurious as you would have hoped, I'm sorry to say that that's the fault of your steward, who limited me enormously with all of his damn budgeting.
Jesus, man, we're not talking about your dinner. I want you to tell me what you know about the money that's been stolen from you.
Someone stole your money.
Yes, you idiot. And I'll have you hung if you don't get it back.
My God, monsieur, don't be so hard on him. I can see from his face that he's an honest man. He'll tell you what you want to know without being put in prison. Now listen, we aren't here to accuse you. Just tell us what you know, and I'm sure you'll be well rewarded by your master here. Someone has stolen his money, and I can only imagine that you must know something about it.
This is just the chance I need to get back at that steward of his. Ever since he showed up, he's been the right-hand man. And I haven't forgotten about the beating he gave me.
You ready to talk yet?
Give him some time. He's just trying to collect his thoughts so he can do everything he can. I told you, he's an honest man.
Monsieur, I hate to say it, but if you really want to know, I think it was your dear Monsieur Steward who did the job.
Moliere?
Yes.
Him? The one who's always so loyal?
It's him, all right. He was the one who took your money.
What makes you suspect him?
What makes me suspect him?
Yeah.
I suspect him because I suspect him.
But it's necessary to tell us on what grounds.
Did you see him hanging around the place I keep my money?
Yes, definitely. Where do you keep your money?
In the garden.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was about to say. I saw him loitering around the garden. And what do you keep your money in?
In a lockbox.
You're not going to believe it. I saw him with a lockbox.
In the lockbox. What did it look like? I just want to make sure it's mine we're talking about.
What did it look like?
Yeah.
It sort of looked like a lockbox.
Yes, of course, but try and be more specific.
It was a big lockbox.
The one they stole from me was small.
Yeah. No, this one was small if you're talking about the size. I just meant it was a big deal because of what is in it.
And what color was the box?
What color?
That's right.
The color was, you could describe it as sort of, well, a very particular shade of, how would you describe it?
What?
Sort of red, wouldn't you say?
No, gray.
No, that's just it. A bit of a gray red. That was what I was thinking.
No doubt about it. That's the one. Hey, start writing, monsieur. Write down the statement. God damn. Who can you believe anymore? This just goes to show you can't trust anyone. I'm half convinced I stole it myself.
Monsieur, here he comes. I don't think there's any reason that we have to tell him it was me who turned him in.
Scene 3. Valere, Harpagon, the chief of police, his clerk, Maitre Jacques.
Get over here. It's time to own up to this most twisted, grisly crime that's ever been committed.
What can I do for you, monsieur?
Oh, so your crime doesn't even make you blush, you scumbag?
What crime are we talking about exactly?
What crime do I want to talk about? Oh, you son of a bitch. As if you don't know you're not hiding anything anymore. It's all been found out. I know every last detail. How dare you take advantage of my kindness and show up at my door just to pull one over on me?
Monsieur, because it seems you know everything, I have no intention of trying to make excuses or defend myself.
Ah! Did I find him own without even having proof? On my own, without even having proof?
I was planning on talking to you, and I was simply waiting for the right moment. But because it's come to this, I only ask that you hold back your anger, at least until you hear me out.
And what reasons could you possibly have, you dirty thief?
Oh, monsieur, I don't deserve those names. It's true I've committed a horrible crime, but I promise you my mistake is worth forgiving.
Forgiving? A stab in the back? A murder like that?
For God's sake, don't get so angry. If you give me the chance, you'll see that the crime isn't as bad as you think.
It's not as bad as I think. What, that you're bleeding me out? That you cut open my stomach and pulled out my guts?
If it's your blood you're worried about, monsieur, it hasn't fallen into the worst hands. My rank is much higher than I've let on, and I'm in the position to avoid dishonoring you and to do what's right.
Oh, you're going to do the right thing, all right. You're going to give back what you stole from me.
I promise that you won't be dishonored, monsieur.
It's not my honor that I'm worried about, but tell me, who put you up to this?
Oh, monsieur, are you really asking that?
Yes, really, I'm asking.
Someone who takes the blame for everything he makes people do. Love.
Love?
Yes.
Love. Jesus Christ. The love of my golden Louis.
No, monsieur, it's not your money that attracted me, that changed my life, and I promise that I don't want anything to do with your fortune, as long as you let me keep the one treasure I have already.
Not on your life, goddammit. I won't leave you with a thing, as if I was going to let you keep what you've stolen.
Would you really call it theft?
Would I call it theft? A treasure like that?
No, you're right. We are talking about a treasure, the most precious one in your life, but you won't be losing it if it's with me. I'm begging you. Give me your permission to stay with this treasure. If you have any conscience at all, you'll let me.
Do nothing of the sort. What are you even talking about?
We've promised ourselves to each other, and I have sworn, and we've sworn not to leave one another's side.
Oh, well, if you promised, how sweet, how endearing. I'm touched, really.
We're committed to one another for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, well, believe you me, I'll put a stop to that.
Only death will pull us apart.
God, I love my money, too, but that's taking it a bit far, don't you think?
I've told you, monsieur, your money has nothing to do with what I've done. I wasn't drawn in by those kinds of concerns. It was much more noble feelings that inspired me.
Next, you're going to tell me that it was Christian charity that made you steal from me. Well, I won't have it. I'm going to set the law on you, you snake in the grass, and the law is going to come down in my favor.
Do what you think is right. I'm ready to suffer any consequence that comes of this. You have to understand, though, that if there was wrong here, it's entirely my fault. Your daughter is not to blame.
Well, I hope not. I'm sure it sure would be a story if my daughter was part of your little scheme, but enough's enough. I want restitution. Tell me where you hid what you stole.
Hid? I didn't hide anything. She's still here.
My sweet lockbox. You mean she's never left my house?
No, monsieur.
Level with me. Have you messed around with her at all?
Monsieur, now you're insulting both of us. We're deeply in love, yes, but it's pure, respectful love we have.
Deeply in love with my money box?
I'd rather die than suggest that I had any perverse desire for someone so kind and honest.
Honest? My lockbox?
I simply have the desire to see her. There's nothing explicit in the passion that her beautiful eyes have stirred in me.
The beautiful eyes of my lockbox. Jesus Christ, he's talking about her like a lover.
Your Dame Claude knows all about our relationship, and I'm sure she would swear that we...
You mean that my servant's an accomplice?
Yes, monsieur. She knew about everything, and it was only after knowing how sincere my passion was that she helped me and your daughter exchange our promises.
Jesus, he's so scared of the law, he's losing his mind. Why are you bringing my daughter into this?
What I'm saying, monsieur, is that at first it was very difficult to talk through her modesty and to get her to accept my proposal.
Her modesty? Whose modesty?
Your daughter's. And it was only yesterday that we both finally agreed that we should be married.
My daughter agreed to marry you?
Yes, monsieur, I've agreed to marry her.
Oh, God, as if I needed another crisis.
Write it all down, monsieur. Don't stop.
It's just one disaster after another over here. I can't take any more. Go on, monsieur. Charge him and book him. I want him written up as a thief and a womanizer as well.
I don't deserve either of those charges. And when you know who I actually am...
Scene 4. Elise, Marianne, Frosine, Harpagon, Valere, Maitre Jacques, the chief of police, his clerk.
Double agent in question. You don't deserve a father like me. Do you know that? Is this what you do with all the wisdom I've imparted on you? You let yourself get taken by a thief, and you promise to marry him without my consent. Well, you both got another thing coming. You're going to be paying for this little stunt in the convent, and you're going to pay for your tricks on the gallows.
This won't be solved by anger, and I think you should at least hear me out before closing the case.
You know what? I'm being too kind when I said the gallows. I'll have them break you on a wheel.
Oh, Mother, please try and find some human compassion in your heart, and don't push it to the most extreme violence just because of your right as a parent. Don't act on your anger and give yourself time to consider what you want to do. Take the time to look at the man you're insulting. He's not what you think he is, and you'll find it much less strange that I promised myself to him if you knew that without him, you would have lost me a long time ago. Father, it was Valere that saved me from drowning at sea. He is the reason I'm alive, and if you care about me at all, you'll...
None of that means anything. He would have been better off letting you drown than doing what he's done.
Father, out of love for me, I am asking you to...
No, I don't want to hear it. It's time for justice to do its duty.
And now you'll pay for that beating you gave me.
Oh God, this is going to be tricky.
Scene 5. Anselme, Harpagon, Elise, Marianne, Frosine, Valere, Maitre Jacques, the chief of police, his clerk.
What's the matter, Monsieur Harpagon? You seem quite worked up.
Monsieur Anselme, you are looking at the least lucky guy on earth. There's all kinds of trouble with the contract you came to sign. The sucking my money and my honor dry here. Nothing sacred for this bastard to work his way into my house by playing the good servant just so he could steal my money and seduce my daughter.
Who cares about the money you keep bringing up?
Yeah, these two have promised to marry each other. Obviously, Monsieur Anselme, this isn't great news for your plans. You're going to have to take legal action against this lowlife. He deserves the worst punishment that clerks can fork out.
Monsieur, I have no interest in marrying by force. especially if the girl's feelings are clearly for someone else. But as far as your interests go, I'm happy to take them up as if they were my own.
This gentleman is the chief of police. He's a fantastic guy. He's going to see this one through by the book. You can take it from here, monsieur. Don't show him an ounce of mercy.
I don't exactly understand what crime I'm committing by loving your daughter. And as far as the punishment goes, I think I think that when you know who I am, you might...
I don't give a shit about any of your little stories. The world these days is filled with wannabe aristocrats. Nothing but a whole load of con men who capitalize on the fact that they're nobodies by using the first uppity-sounding name that pops in their heads.
I'll have you know that I have no desire to go by a name that isn't mine, and that all of Naples would confirm my rank.
Watch what you say, young man. You're taking more of a risk than you think. You're standing in front of a man who knows everyone in Naples and could easily check the claims you're making.
I don't have to be afraid of anything. And if you know Naples so well, then you must know Dom Thomas de Albersi.
I certainly do. Few know him better than me, in fact.
I don't give a damn about any Dom Thomas or any Don Juan.
For God's sake, let him speak. Let's see what he has to say.
What I'm saying is that he is my father.
Huh?
Yes.
Oh, please, you can't expect me to believe that. Find some other story that you might have some actual success with and forget this nonsense.
Now it's your turn to watch what you say. None of this is made up, and I haven't made a single claim I can't prove.
What? You mean you're really claiming to be the son of Dom Thomas d'Albersi?
Yes, I do, and I'm ready to prove it to you at all costs.
This young man is unbelievable. I'll have you know that the man in question was lost at sea 16 years ago with his wife and children. They had barely escaped from unrest in Naples, where a group of noble families had been under attack.
Yes, and I'll have you know that his son, 7 years old at the time, was saved with a servant by a passing Spanish ship, and that his son is the man you're arguing with. The captain of the ship, touched by my troubles, took a liking to me and raised me as his own son. As soon as I was old enough, I became a soldier, and it was only then that I found out that my father wasn't dead. I went to look for him, but on my way, I was lucky enough to meet Elise under miraculous circumstances, and I have been in love with her ever since. Because of the strength of my love and the cruelty of her own father, I was forced to take up a position here as a servant and to send others in search of my parents.
But what proof do you have to convince us that this isn't just some story you made up?
I have the word of the Spanish captain, a ruby signet ring that belonged to my father, and a gate bracelet that my mother wore on her arm, and old Pedro, the servant that was saved with me in the shipwreck.
It can't be true. From your story, I know that you're telling the truth. You're without a doubt my brother.
You're my sister?
Yes. My heart skipped a beat the moment you opened your mouth. Our mother, who will be beside herself when she sees you, has told me the tragic story of our family 1,000 times. Somehow, fate saved us too in that tragic shipwreck, but we only kept our life in exchange for our freedom. The men who saved me and my mother were pirates, and we lived in slavery for 10 years before escaping back to Naples. When we returned home, though, we discovered that all our belongings had been sold and we couldn't find any news of our father. We passed through Guinness, where my mother collected what was left of a fortune she had been cheated out of. From there, to escape the cruelty of our relatives, we came here, where we haven't lived as much as survived.
Oh God, what a mystery you are to all of us. I'll never doubt your power again. Please, you two, come here. I am your father.
You're our father?
You're the one my mother has cried over so many times?
Yes, my girl. Yes, my boy. I am Dom Thomas d'Albersi. By a stroke of luck, I was saved from the ocean with all of the money in my possession. After thinking you were dead for over 16 years of lonely travels, I finally thought it was time to remarry and look for a company with a kind, honest woman. I thought that it would be dangerous to return to Naples, so I sold everything I had. I made a life for myself here under the name of Anselm. I wanted to throw away my old name, the one that had caused me so much misery.
So you're telling me this is your stuff?
Yes.
Right. Well, then I'll be suing you for the 10,000 crowns he stole from me.
My son, he stole from you?
You got that right.
Who told you that?
Mr. Shaw.
You told him that?
Hey, now, I never said anything.
Yeah, you did. Monsieur, the chief of police took his deposition right here.
You really believe I'm capable of such a dirty trick?
Capable or not, I'm going to get my money back.
Scene 6. Cléante, Valère, Marian, Elise, Frosine, Harpagon, Anselme, Maître Jacques, La Flèche, the chief of police, his clerk.
Don't get yourself worked up, Father, and don't accuse anyone else. I've solved the crime, and I've come to tell you that if you'll let me marry Marianne, you'll get your money back. Don't you worry about that. It's somewhere safe, and I'm the only one who knows where it is. It's up to you now to tell me what you'd like to do. You can either give me permission to marry, or you can lose your lockbox forever.
Nothing missing?
Nothing at all. Now make up your mind. Will you allow us to marry the way her mother has promised to do? She has left the decision up to her daughter to choose between the two of us.
But you don't understand. It's not just a question of my mother's consent. I've been lucky enough to have my brother return to me, and my father, too. We'll need his permission as well.
My children, the right I have as your father should hardly be used to go against your wishes. Monsieur Harpagon, I'm sure you understand that a young woman is more inclined to marry a son than his father. Please don't try to force me to make my children unhappy, and join me in consenting to these two marriages.
Before I give anyone permission to do anything, I want to see my money.
You'll have it, and you'll see that nothing is missing or damaged.
I don't have any money to give to. I don't have any money to give to my children for their marriages.
Don't worry, I have more than enough for both of them.
Oh.
And you'll foot the bill for the weddings, both of them.
I'd be happy to. Are you satisfied?
I'm satisfied. As long as you buy me a new suit for the occasion.
Agreed. Now let's forget about business and enjoy all of the reasons we have to be happy today.
Excuse me, Monsieurs, that's all well and good, but I must ask who intends to pay for the statements I've written up.
Down by your statement.
That may be so, but I refuse to have done it for nothing.
You know what? Why don't we say that you can hang him and we'll call it even?
Oh, God, what am I going to do? If I tell the truth, I'll be beat to shit, but now I'm going to get hanged for telling lies?
Senor Harpagon, I think it's best if we pardon this liar.
And you'll pay the chief his fee?
I suppose so. But come, let's go share our joy with your mother.
And it's time for me to say hello to my dear, sweet, beautiful mother.
End of story. Can I have all my actors pop on? You all deserve to be on stage.
Oh my goodness.
Kudos to Pillow for playing Moneybox. Kudos to Hat. Bravo, everyone. I can't hear it, but give them big claps in the comment section. Fantastic. Fantastic. I thank you as myself, as Nicole Marie Green with Sunday Script Circle, to my dear friends who are all on the screen. I love you all. Thank you for hopping in. Folks, isn't this incredible? These actors are so dang good that they just hop in and that's what they create without direction. Oh, I love you guys. Thank you so much. Folks are giving you big claps. We're gonna have Colin hop on. Darrington's laughing at me. Oh! We're gonna have Colin hop on. He's gonna field some questions in the chat. Actors, you have no obligation to stay. You did a ton of work tonight, but I appreciate every one of you. I'll be messaging you. Thank you for being a part of this. If you want to hang out and stay, totally hang out and be a part of this. Someone might have a question for actors, but if you aren't on here, Andy and I are, so no biggie. Love to you, truly. I love seeing all your faces. Thank God for live theater, even if it's through Zoom, right? All right, Colin, let's all stop our videos. We'll give it to Colin, and some of us might pop back on, some of us might not.
Cool. Wonderful. You know, I want to, I hope Nick is still with us, and I want Nick to pop on too if you have video capabilities. We'd love to, I think, see your face. Yeah, there he is. Mute. Yeah.
Hi.
This is wonderful. This was a wonderful experience, I think, and I think we learned a lot about translation, about crafting something brand new from something that already existed. And so I have put up into the chat windows those 4 big buckets of thoughts that we can all start to think about and share in a moment. But Nick, I'd love for you to maybe talk a little bit about the process, about some of your big takeaways. The floor is yours, friend.
Great. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to bring, first of all, thank you to everyone. That was really lovely. To everyone who organized this, Felicia and Rebecca, Nicole, yourself, and also all the actors. I mean, I feel like everyone just really got the tone of what I was going for and what was already there in Moliere's piece. So that was really exciting. I think one thing that I really like about this play that I think I tried to stress in the translation was the wordiness of it, right? It's written in prose instead of verse, which isn't true about a lot of Moliere's plays. And that's makes it a lot easier as a translator, I think, too. You're not going from the Alexandrian 12-syllable lines to what people normally do with Moliere in English, which is like a 10-syllable iambic pentameter. So it makes it a little easier to find your way into something different. So yeah, it makes it a lot more conversational. For some reason, what came to mind for me was a lot of filmmakers. I was thinking about people like Woody Allen or Spike Lee, who have these like kind of neurotic characters who are sort of going on and on and on, and they have this real wordiness about them. So I really hoped to get that through in the translation. I also, to specifically to target the miser himself, who Walter just perfectly captured with kind of like the insistence. I guess like he just really believes himself, but he's sort of spinning these lies all the time. I had him repeat a lot of the same insults over and over, which is also what's true in Moliere's piece. Harpagon is like he's not clever in a lot of ways, you know. He's like he only has like 3 ways of insulting people. He just keeps saying them over and over. You also see, you know, with the long list of the itemized list of things he's like pawning off, he bought all of this stuff. Like at some point Harpagon thought it was a good idea to buy like a stuffed alligator. So you know, there's this real sense of like kind of this tacky guy that I really wanted to get across with a lot of the language. I think though that no one is like
except for maybe Marian, I think no one is totally saved in this piece, which is pretty interesting. Everyone kind of has an angle or a game or a scheme or something. And they're all kind of concocting these, they all have these plans, and they're all kind of trying to come up with some way of getting one over on someone else. And they all have these sort of theories from the very beginning, where like Valère is explaining how to win someone over and everything. So there's this mischievousness, right, about all of them. So I think that really stands out in the piece. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else that you know, as things come up, I'd love some questions about translation. But yeah.
Wonderful. I think that's a great introduction and a great way to frame the discussion that we can have now. What I would love to say is for anyone that wants to share a question, I see we have some questions popping up in the chat box already, which is great. If we want to start with maybe framing those questions in terms of kind of statements of meaning, I'll be honest, Nick, if you want to kind of bypass some of these and go right into questions, I'm totally comfortable with that too. That kind of seems like where some of these comments are coming from is really wanting to dive into questions. So we can kind of bypass those first two steps if you like. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Well, this is wonderful. We have some great questions coming in. If you have a question and you don't want to take the time to type it all out, simply type in, I have a question, and then you'll be the next person that we address. We can even have you pop up on the screen and hear your wonderful voice. But I think the first question we had popping up, one was about the specificity in what's been called Trumpian language.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a specific connection to that. You want to talk about that, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that was intentional. And I think I think Walter got this across so well. There's this insistence with Harpagon that like everything he says, he really believes it, or he makes you believe that he believes it. And it's so it's such like honest lying, you know. He's like, he makes it sound like the most sensible thing in the world when he says things, and he makes it sound so ridiculous that anyone would question his good intentions and everything. So I definitely wanted to get into that with the language, with a few of those references to like to fake news, to tax returns, to things like that. And both specifically with the Trump example, but also more generally just in this moment where like with news and with facts and everything, there's this kind of constant questioning of what is real and everything. And Harpagon a lot of the time makes something real just by being the loudest voice in the room. So I really wanted to get that across. Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. Now I know that that I certainly took that away from it as well. I also noticed that as the play goes along, we get less and less, I guess you would call, specific connections to one particular person, Trump, and like you said, becomes more generalized. And you've already mentioned that that's something intentional. And there's a great follow-up question about the pros and cons, in your opinion, as a translator, the pros and cons in connecting your work to Trump. What you think that might do to a potential audience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think first of all, and most simply, it's this like relevant, very clear reference. And I think regardless of regardless of where you're coming down politically, there's this sense that Trump is sort of at the center of that question, right? And it's a real like modern stand-in for these questions of truth and like establishing yourself as truthful or as real. So I think it really works as this modern connection to those things. And it makes it in the same way that all of the language, all of the modern language gives it this punch and gives it this this vitality. I think that reference kind of brings the play into the forefront a little bit.
Your answer was wonderful, and actually kind of anticipated the next question that was posed from Andy and Nicole, which is why this story is important to tell today.
Yeah, I think So first of all, I'm really interested in this question of truth with this play, right? What characters are doing to create meaning in their lives and understand what's real and what isn't real. There's this like hilarious mistaken identity thing at the end and everything. The finding of the siblings that I think even to, I can't say this, but I think even to Moliere's audience, there's this sense of of a little bit of absurdity with that, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part. I think obviously money is a huge issue in this play, and how people are being commodified, who's choosing to really buy into the economy and wealth. You have Valère sort of being willing to give up his fortune, sort of, at least momentarily, in pursuit of love. There's Frosine, who's kind of doing anything she can to make it, and is clearly, we don't know exactly, but there's definitely the sense that she's either coming from modest means or not much, and has sort of scraped her way into this world. So everything's very transactional in the whole thing. And I think it's interesting to see that in this moment of like, the dawn of capitalism in the 17th century and everything. And obviously how that plays into sort of late capitalism today. Yeah.
Folks, share lots more questions, any thoughts you might have. If you have any just moments that really struck you deeply, evocatively, emotionally, share those too. While we're waiting, something that struck me is that it felt like as we're going through this play, we're dipping our toes into several different, potentially different eras. We have an era in which there is a fake news that can be spreading false information. That same era talks about tax returns. There's also an era in which a person can feasibly get lost at sea and be attacked by pirates and have to work in servitude to get freedom. Where do you, as the author of this translation, imagine the kind of mise en scène of a play like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think I wanted it to be a little intentionally ambiguous, and I wanted that to be the choice of whoever chose to stage it. I guess I think that's my real answer, that I did want a lot of ambiguity. I think there's almost though this humor in the differences in that. So you have like, there's this humor that comes out of them sort of using this modern language, but then suddenly talking about these sort of antiquated coins or something, or Maître Jacques not bumbling around and then talking about this suckling pig or something. So I think that wherever and whenever it would be set, I'd want those contrasts to come out in some way, and there's this sort of intrinsic humor in that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Hey, we got a great question. What do you see as your next step for translation? Anything in particular stand out to you from hearing it read by such a accomplished, diverse group of actors?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to comb over some of the some of the modern expressions they use. There's, especially with Harpagon, I was trying to get the sense of him sort of weaving in and out of this really, this like not vernacular, but kind of this language with lots of idioms and sort of expressions and turns of phrase. And then he has these moments where he sort of gets high and mighty and will say things like thief, thief. So I'd be interested in coming through that again and sort of looking at trying to make that consistent, which I think they did a great job, and I got the sense of the characters, but I'd like to sort of focus on that interior consistency, I guess.
Excellent. There's a very detailed question. We can read it. I'll read it aloud, and I'll do my best to not butcher it, and then you can tackle it. A few people commented on the pacing, talking about how fantastic it was. How do you handle preserving the pace of that back and forth between characters, especially ones hinged on drawing out those misunderstandings as you were translating it? Were there any challenges in the language shift that the language shift presented?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. I mean, first of all, I think a lot of the pacing is really thanks to Moliere. It's really there in the original. The back and forths are really like that. There are a lot of, even in the French, it's these one or two word lines and these back and forths that really kind of ricochet through the text. So it's fascinating to see that in a play of its time, because I think even in something like Shakespeare, where there is this quickness and there's this wittiness, you don't quite get that, which feels so modern in a particular way. Yeah, as far as difficulties, I mean, I thought some of the moments where there was a real change in tone in or out of those moments, I noticed that in a lot of the lovers scenes, things slow down a little bit and they get wordier and they get more flowery. And there were occasional moments where I had to figure out how to deal with that and to preserve that language, but also to kind of think, okay, how is this going to work in the world that we're creating with this language, right? So how can we have these characters have these funny back and forths where they'll use modern slang or like really swear at each other or be really vulgar, and then kind of go into these scenes with this more classically drawn out emotional back and forth. So I think that was difficult. You know, in as is the case with any translation, I think there are occasionally these moments where the joke is really in the French or something, and that's hard to either find sort of an English equivalent, or alternatively to just get the logic of it to play out. I can't remember exactly how it's phrased, but I know in the scene where Harpagon's asking to see La Flèche's hands, the way he phrases it in French really plays well, where the confusion between like the singular and the plural and like the second set of hands is really nice. And I think it works in English, but you know, there's maybe something lost there. Yeah.
There was an excellent question that my old eyes missed, but this is wonderful from a contextual perspective about the perception for modern audiences to digest the idea of a father selling his daughter for no dowry, and then, you know, if this play would be put into a 21st century mise en scène, how that might communicate to an audience a very specific or a very challenging-ish conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's I'm glad that was brought up, because that was definitely another difficulty with the play, with trying to find a way. I mean, because it's such the concept of the dowry, as specifically as it's brought up in this play, and not just this question of like, I don't know, theoretical power, but really systemic, particular power and like rights of parents, and especially fathers. Yeah, it's hard to work with that, right? And it's hard to find a way to do that. I think if the play has a real saving grace as far as that, it's the fact that it's so antagonized, and it's so the idea of exchanging people is really villainized. You don't, Harpagon's the only one who's really for it. Besides sort of a modern, I mean, someone commented when Frosine was talking about waiting for the husband to die, they said like, oh, I saw this last week on Real Housewives or something, right? So there's sort of this sense of that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be hard to totally cut out the notion of the dowry, and it might be something that you change, but I mean, the closest thing would be something like sort of marrying into wealth, which I still think is obviously a pretty current modern idea, even though we try and distance ourselves from it a little bit. So yeah, I could imagine it could be sort of played with something along those lines. Yeah.
There was another question by the same from the same person about your idea to translate this play. What gave you the inspiration for the miser? You might have talked about this a bit kind of tangentially, but what do you think about this play particularly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something that I was sort of discussing with Casey Moliere and a few other people at the time already. So it was sort of it was a possibility. I really do like the I like the tone, and it's a lot of what I've already talked about. It has this particular tone. It feels very modern, not even in the ideas, but in the language and in the way the characters go back and forth. I think the language was a huge part for me, and finding something like this that's a little bit more prosaic and direct, and finding vitality in a text like that. I also it's surprising that this is a lesser known Moliere play in the States, because it's a really well-known one in France, and especially Harpagon's famous speech about the au voleur speech, the thief speech. That's something that a lot of students to this day are made to memorize in high school. It's like a really classic high school text in the way we'd think of like maybe A Midsummer Night's Dream or something. I worked at a high school in France last year, and there were still these, Gen Z French high schoolers being asked to memorize that speech. So I think that was also a fun part of it, bringing this piece back into the conversation, I guess, in the States.
So this guy's book, Robert Goldsby, talks about that too. Talks about how well known that play is internationally, and even growing in its interest and recognition in the States. But specifically talks about that speech that closes Act 4.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, it's great. I mean, I got together with a French friend a couple of weeks ago and told her I was doing this, and she immediately rattled off the whole speech in French. And hasn't looked at it for 40 years and knew it by heart. Yeah.
That sounds an awful lot like our dear Felicia Landre being able to rattle off the famous speech of Phaedra before she plunges herself.
Oh yeah.
Before she takes her life. Excellent. I have another comment. We saw a version of this in Arkansas, and I'm also surprised to consider it's considered lesser known. Yeah, I think that's a great point. That a lot of folks that certainly, when you get past Shakespeare, I would think that Moliere is probably your next big classical name for theater that's being done. So perhaps it is incumbent upon us silly theater professors to make sure that our students know a little more about Moliere and not just Bill Shakespeare.
Yeah.
There's one more question.
Yeah,
go for it, Nicole.
I was going to say, let's take this final question, and then we'll wrap up together, if that sounds good.
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect.
Are we looking at
got a question that says Moliere on occasion? Yeah. Do you want to read it out loud? I've been reading way too much already, Nick.
Yeah.
Moliere on occasion evoked accents or dialects portrayed in the characters. Yeah, who were using language above or below their station. I've seen some modern translations that use dialect or accents to distinguish between characters' backgrounds. Were you tempted to do something similar, to perhaps write in a certain accent or dialect?
Right. Not as much. I not specifically in terms of a dialect. I think this comes out a lot more directly in a few other Moliere plays. So there's like in Dom Juan, there are two sort of characters that are very specifically supposed to be peasants, and Pierrot and Charlotte, and they're talking really explicitly in a dialect, where I look at it and I can understand half of the words, and there are all these accent marks indicating different things and these shortened words. And this play is a little different in that respect. I think the language distinctions are slightly more subtle, in that people will change their registers of speech, but you can't point to something and quite say, oh, they're sort of playing off this like Breton dialect or something like that. So I strayed away from that a little bit. I think also because I really wanted to get the sense of people like Harpagon kind of sliding up and down into different registers. And even Cléante and Valère do that. Frezin has a few moments. So I wanted a little bit more, not class mobility, but this linguistic mobility in that. So I think I strayed away from any specific dialect. Yeah.
There's an excellent follow-up, and Nicole, this will be our last one, I promise, that asks about the term monsieur being absolutely relevant to the English translation, because as an actor, this comment says that it was the only phrase that pulled them out of it.
Yeah, that's a great that's a great question and comment, and that was something I was thinking about. I kept the monsieur in it just because I liked the idea of that as of the denominations of money and a few other things like that as these little reminders that this is this 17th century French play. And again, I kind of liked that as this anachronistic thing that would almost make the really modern comedic moments more funny with the contrast. But yeah, that's something I'm not extremely wedded to it. It's something I could definitely be convinced would work better with like a Mr. or a Sir or something. So yeah.
Excellent. I think that's a fantastic comment for us to close this part of the discussion on. We'll toss it back to Nicole.
I want to thank Colin so much for leading. Nick, thank you so much for sharing your script with us.
Thank you.
It was really an incredible evening to be able to kind of play with it and actually be present with the community and, play in live theater. It's really special that you shared your script with us, and it was funny as hell. And to everybody else who's still with us, if you enjoyed the play tonight, we are in collaboration this evening with KC Moliere 400 in 2022. They have a website, they have a Facebook, they're doing lots of mini events, book clubs, and they're incredible with the president, Felicia Landre, heading the troops. If you enjoyed and want to be a part of Script Circle in the future, you can look for us for Sunday Script Circle on Facebook. There we will present events monthly. You can join with us. We do this every month, usually with more contemporary scripts. But I am so appreciative of everyone joining us this evening. In the chat, you can find KC Moliere's website if you want to follow along. Thank you all for being here. One more thank you to our actors who volunteered their times for doing such incredible work. I mean, that's how you know they're good actors, right? You send them a script online and that's what they create. Imagine it fully produced. And thanks again to Nick and the whole team at KC Moliere. They were incredible. I hope you'll join us again, and I hope you have a wonderful Sunday evening. Stay safe. Live theater lives on, and we'll see you again in the future. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.